you believe it? It's God's comic Brad Stine. This is Brad Stine Has Issues, where comedy, Christianity, and conservatism collide in a cacophony of clarity. This is a special edition of Brad Stine Has Issues. All funny all the time. Jeff Allen's going to be with me live here on camera. And Jeff is an old friend, a wonderful comic, a Christian man, older than me by far, balding indeed. We don't know if it's because he's old. Does he have some kind of chemo? We don't know. What we do know is this. He'll be here. You're going to laugh, but you're also going to learn about who he is and what he's up to. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Get onto my X and follow me. Instagram. Let's try to grow my ministry. God's Comic Ministries. I'm trying to do this thing about telling you stories about God in ways that are interesting and fascinating and funny and unique. So I need you guys to do the best you can to help me by joining and following and hit that like and that notification button on YouTube. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers, and it's taken a while, so let's keep rolling. But folks, my sidekick, my producer, director, and funny guy every now and again, but oftentimes failing miserably, is my son, Wyatt Stine. Wyatt, welcome back to Brad Stine Has Issues.
It's good to be back. I can't remember the last time we were just trying to be funny.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, and I'll tell you this, when we tried, we failed. Nevertheless, it made us feel like we were getting somewhere because we were trying to see if we could keep up with all the other big shots that are funny all day long.
No. It's strategic. You gotta fail in 99% of the time, so that the 1% of the time you actually try, it's like it seems even funnier by comparison.
No, I got that. Yeah. The comparison says this is clearly better because these are so bad that this thing killed. Problem is they never watched that episode. That's what's so ironic. That's the one they always miss because it ends up being Christmas morning or New Year's Eve. We always just don't think it through, son.
Yeah, or we accidentally release it on a leap year or something.
Yes, which means it never came out, ever.
It'll come out in like 3 years.
From what we understand. But meanwhile, it's lost in the archives. Speaking of the archives, Wyatt, it's been a special week. I don't know if you're aware of this. I hope so. But they had a very special worldwide, or maybe it was just America. No Kings was a big, huge protest. What did it represent? Nobody knows. Who funded it? Well, who else but the progressive left? Probably Soros. The guy's got nothing but money to try to destroy America. I think he's 107 years old and he'll never die, ever. Apparently, these guys have found a way to live forever. Apparently, money can, in fact, buy you life, Wyatt.
Well, I mean, this whole no kings thing, so good that we don't have a king. Could you imagine if we did?
It would be odd. Now, if you'll remember years ago, I'm going to guess 250-ish, yeah. we fled a king. We didn't want to have anything to do with a king. I think it was was it Richard, maybe? Anyways, I don't remember now. Don't care because we got rid of him. We left. We got on our little ships, the Mayflower, and it doesn't sound like a strong ship. If you're going to go over the seas, facing typhoons and hurricanes, you want to ship that sounds like the Seal, the Barrel, the
Iron Patriot.
Yes, the Log Crusher, the Boulder, Mayflower.
Well, I mean, they did the No Kings protests in other countries too, you know.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they did.
Did they do them in the places that had kings?
Except in the places that had kings, they renamed it No Tyrants.
Oh, I see. I see.
I'm starting to get mixed messages with what the point of it is.
Yeah, I don't think we all know. I think what we do know is this, and it's made it so clear to me, Wyatt. The longer we get now, remember when our whole podcast kind of launched during the Corona crisis, that crazy calamity of crud that was created to crisis level. Thus, characters could crumble and they could lose their credibility. And it happened. Now, the thing is, I only bring that up and have often over the years, because it was the beginning of when I realized that all bets are off, that the press is controlled. It's not real. It is all propaganda. We don't know what is true. We don't know what is false. We can try to do our research, but the interesting thing, son, is if you saw something on the internet you questioned, you would go to the internet to discover if that was true. Thus, the diabolical scheme continues because it's all being controlled by somebody, and I'll tell you who it isn't, you and me.
Yeah, believe me, I tried.
Did you?
No.
Okay.
But I've heard that they, in college, there was one of the early classes, one of the assignments was go to Wikipedia, edit whatever you want and see how long it lasts, as their way of saying, like, you can't trust Wikipedia.
Oh.
And then they showed him, here's what I did. Here's how I fixed it. And then he went to a Wikipedia article he had edited, and it wasn't there. It was reverted. The change that he wrote to prove how unreliable Wikipedia was reverted for being unreliable.
Well, he didn't have George Soros money, son. All I had to do was call George and say, hey, is there any way we can get this embedded in stone? And he wouldn't have had to swear.
Georgie boy, how about some of that Wikipedia money, huh?
You know, he's a monarch. I don't know if you're aware of that, George is, or a tyrant or a totalitarian. Either way, he can afford to become whatever he wants. Any title you want to give yourself. Did you know that you're a lord, for example?
Yeah, I did.
So how did that come about? I've always been curious about that amazing journey you took to lordship.
Yeah, my sister for Christmas got me this, like, I forget what exactly you'd call it, but basically you buy land in like Scotland and that legally gives you the title of Lord. I'm not entirely sure how like legally binding this is. However, I at least have more evidence that I am a lord than you have that I'm not.
No, I think you are a lord, and I think it's
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the audience who might be questioning
your
my
lordship.
royal heritage.
Yes, right. Well, listen, isn't it like a little swatch of land?
like 1 cubic meter or something. So, like it's nothing.
So you can go and defend that thimble worth of lamb and do so legally as a monarch. I think you can execute people there willy-nilly. I think that you can have all kinds of consorts, right?
If that's legally my land, could I not form my own country on it?
Of course you could, and I would hope you would.
Okay, well, what would my state flag be? And more importantly, what would my national anthem be?
Well, the state flag clearly would be a portrait of Mario with a flag that looked like the flag that you catch when you did those side-scrolling things. And they jump up and kit, and it comes back down.
Oh, and I already know what my anthem's going to be.
What would it be?
The chicken yodel.
Oh.
Because it encapsulates me perfectly.
Do you mean encapsulate?
First rule of Wyatopia. It is pronounced encapsulate.
Yeah, I think it's encapsulate, but thank you.
Not in Wyatopia.
No, Wyatopia. We make words up on the fly. There are no rules to the word making. Nomenclature as we speak. We just make up a word and then we redefine it on the fly. That would be Wyatopia.
Yeah. It's a small country. We're still getting founded. It's like the Luxembourg of you diss on Luxembourg.
I will say
they have a GDP.
No. I think it's wonderful. What I'm really excited about is how economical it's going to be to build your castle.
Oh, are you kidding me? I already have the designs like on a napkin.
Nice. Matter of fact, that's probably the castle.
Yeah, it's to scale.
Okay. It reminds me a lot of this old movie called Spinal Tap, where they created a mock image of
Stonehenge.
Yeah. And then they decided to use it and send it to the prop builders so that they could put it behind them and it would drop down dramatically during a rock and roll set. And when it came...
Except they accidentally wrote inches instead of feet.
Well, and what's that? How does that pan out then in real time?
Two midgets dancing in like dressed as leprechauns dancing around a 1.5 foot tall Stonehenge.
Wyatt, have you seen my latest clip from Laugh While It's Legal where I have a whole routine about the word midget?
No, but I was there when you filmed it, so I still remember it.
Well, I know that because you were the one that wasn't moving up the credit.
And you were the one who wasn't properly cueing me when to.
Right.
We've been over this before.
Yeah, that's what I needed to do while I was in the middle of trying to entertain people, is also make sure that
in fact, that
I
is
could
what
cue
you were
you.
supposed to do. Your teleprompter guy needs to know when to teleprompt.
Yeah, that's kind of not the case. That's kind of like saying, well, your photographer needs to know when to flick the camera
Yes,
lens.
they do need to know that.
Oh, my goodness.
But it's also up to the person being photographed to also do their end of the bargain.
Now, listen, here's something you need to understand, Wyatt. When I am trying to have a lighthearted podcast, and I think in some ways this podcast started lighthearted. I don't know if you know that or not. Like it used to be a little bit, well, didn't I always say things? Didn't I also say some interesting things or try to do some inspirational things?
Maybe. I got a question.
Yeah.
So if wearing glasses makes you four eyes, does
Right.
wearing hearing aids make you four ears?
Hearing aids,
Yeah.
probably. Why do you say that? What brings that up?
Nothing. Just a random thought that came to my head. I'm not sure where it came from.
Well, it could have come from your squire at your land that came to you.
Yes, Squire sent me a message on the finest parchment.
Listen, I want you to help me with something, son.
Can do.
So
Well, I'll try.
over the years, I find myself getting older.
Yeah, that seems to be a problem most people experience.
Have you?
Yeah, I'd say so,
Okay,
yeah.
so you're 29.
Don't remind me.
Okay, you're some level of
I am
measured
some level
linear
of
time.
age between birth and death.
Right, and that could be at any moment. Trust me on that.
Yep.
So I want to ask you a question. You're late 20. Well, I'm not going to remind you of that, though I just did. So that means, can I say it now since I did remind
Well, I
you?
guess the cat's out of the bag at
Okay.
this
All
point.
right. So you
but
gotta-
just be
you get-
careful from now on.
You got a 29-year-old cat that's out of the bag, and it's saying to itself, okay, so do you find at your age, and you're young, obviously, compared to me, though we both look equal in our genetic structure, especially our bone structure, do you find anything changing even in your life, like as getting older, like, oh, I'm noticing blah, anything that you've noticed about your life getting older that, and I mean, I guess it could be any good stuff, but more importantly, like things like, wow, this must be a result of getting older. Anything?
Yeah.
What is it?
Memes are becoming less and less coherent for me.
Give me an example.
So there was a meme that's been going around recently.
Yeah.
And it's just 6'7".
Oh yeah, 6. I've
Yeah.
heard of that. Isn't
Yeah,
kids doing something like 6,
Yeah,
7?
exactly. What does it mean?
I don't know.
Exactly. Back in my day, we had proper memes. Dang it.
Okay.
They had proper setups and punchlines. None of this random, ooh, funny number nonsense that I see the youth of today slamming down.
Well, what would it represent? 6, 7.
So apparently, the meme came from a basketball player who was interviewed and asked, "How do you think you're gonna do?" And he's like, "We'll win by, I don't know, 6 or 7." And then they won by like 40.
Okay.
So it just became a meme.
So it's just like
that
if
is
you.
the bar that has been set for quality entertainment.
So if you seriously underestimate an accomplishment, it's 6, 7.
that's enough to be immortalized in meme culture. And honestly, I'm sick of it. I feel like we need to go back to a pure time where only the good memes survived. So survival of the memist.
Do you know what a meme is? Do you know where it came? Who coined that
I
phrase?
don't remember who coined it, but I know what it is.
Richard Dawkins.
Really?
Yes.
The big Richard.
You know who he is, right?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So very, very famous atheist, wrote The God Delusion, one of the worst philosophical books in history. I think when it came out, even one of the reviewers said, it makes me embarrassed to be an atheist. It was just so bad. And atheists, and I'm learning this more and more as I watch them, Wyatt, I got to tell you, they're so bad at philosophy that it's beyond belief. And it shocks me because they're pretty smart, usually. Not the internet guys. We brought this up many times. If you ever see an atheist come on and use the word sky daddy, just erase and block because they don't know philosophy. They're not educated. They're not really even worth spending time with because they have nothing they're trying to accomplish other than to anger people. They get joy out of that. And that's what a lot of people do who like to pull wings off of flies. People that just get joy out of harming and hurting other people. Now, these are people that believe in logic and reason. And so they logically reason that to hurt other people's feelings make them feel good about the nihilism that their lifestyle has presented to the world. Nothing good has come from atheism that I can find. Nothing. I don't know. There's no Jesus equivalent. There's no like atheist Jesus, right? That makes people just feel uplifted and helped and growing and love and they don't exist. And if they tried, of course, they would have to be pulling from Christ, the real Jesus, or religion in general, because again, if their ideas were true, then there wouldn't be love and kindness, or whatever, because that's just simply a concept that isn't real. It's just the way that your biorhythm works and your biochemistry works and the chemicals in your brain works to give you a feeling, a motivism. I feel this thing. So it applies to my life, but it doesn't have any really value. So again, every time they speak, they're proving God exists, and they can't see that because they've already limited God as an act, as an accessible concept that probably should be followed. But that's where it came from. And I kind of got off on a rant on atheists. I have a problem with atheism, right? It's changing me. It really, we've done one episode of The Atheist Experiment with Objectively Dan, and it was decent. I think people found it interesting, but I got to go deeper. I'm going to go searching for some more. We're going to keep on that trail because I got a lot more to talk about. But I'm finding myself more and more disillusioned with atheists having a coherence because they never have really anything to overcome objections when it comes to presuppositions. That's really what I was trying to get at with Objectively Dan, that you have to assume certain things just to have a coherent conversation, and those things don't exist in atheism. Anyways, once again, find myself struggling with atheists in general. But that being said, one of their gods, one of their saviors, and maybe this guy would fit some of their bills. Some of them have accepted Richard Dawkins into their heart as their Lord and Savior. Came up with the idea of memes. And I think that what he was trying to discover as a biologist is that, you get these genes that get passed on biochemically from one, from a species to adapt, and the species gets a different kind of adaptation that helps them survive. And that's a gene's replication. He said, well, there can also be thoughts and ideas that also can get replicated somehow into people's heads, and then it gets passed on to the next person. And that's a meme. So it's basically trying to make thoughts and ideas like genetic ways of passing on information. And that's the guy that coined it. So, became kind of a cultural term. So I'll give him credit for that. But that's where memes came from. Nowadays, I guess memes are more like funny little things that people put out that everybody can kind of laugh at together, have a sign of a communal guffaw.
Honestly, I feel like a good way to describe what meme means in the modern sense. It's basically a modernized version of a Larry Garson. Of his style of cartooning.
So you're talking about the Far Side, Gary Larson.
Yeah, Gary Larson.
The Far Side.
What did I say? Larry Garson?
You did. You said Larry Garson, but remember in Wyatopia, that's perfectly legitimate.
Look, in Wyatopia, rule number 2, it's actually rule number 1, but rule number 2, what Wyatt says in Wyatopia is the law.
Yes. Even if your name is changed as he speaks.
If Wyatt, the king of Wyatopia, says that your name is Larry Garson, then boy, you'd better change that birth certificate before I find out.
He doesn't have to. It's already been changed just by a stroke of a pen or a little diction from your tongue.
It's been retroactively changed, and that's just the way it is.
Again, now this is all for those of you who decide to move from this nation, which is filled with
yeah.
a new Hitler called Trump. He's the Hitler, they say.
Yeah.
So you got to get out. Well, what do? You go to Wytopia, which
move
is
over. No, really, move over. We have no room.
Yes, it's like you can only come one at a time, and you can only put one foot in.
I'll tell you, our tourism rates are through the roof. However, it's like just as many of them enter as leave. It's kind of weird.
Isn't it landlocked?
Technically, but there is like a brook, like about 5 plots down.
Okay.
We have some pretty tame relationships with Carlotopia and Jenniferlettville. So currently it's not an issue.
And Javiertopia. You know, you'd be surprised the people from all over the world that get to become lords.
So look, I'm not gonna lie to you. Javiertopia is not necessarily in the best speaking terms.
Really?
Well, it's the same thing again. It's stinking hunting rights. That rabbit was in Wyatopia.
For a second.
For a half second.
Right.
And it was in your land for like a quarter second. It is mine by right. Okay? That's what I'm saying.
By divine right, perhaps.
No, I'm a king, not a god.
Well, but I mean, didn't the kings consider they were given...
Wyatopia is not an absolute monarchy. It's a constitutional monarchy.
Interesting.
Of course, I wrote the Constitution and have all the say in it, but it still counts. Yeah,
especially in one of your amendments is if everything goes sideways or if something doesn't feel right in the way I did this, it really was.
Not necessarily. However, the Constitution does have a big asterisk at the end, and the footnote is basically results may vary.
Yes, right. Well, listen, for Wyatopia, I can't blame you. I think to give yourself that out,
Listen. I hired the best lawyers a bag of Fritos could buy to write that Constitution. It is airtight unless you poke holes in it. Yeah. But then again, anything airtight would be destroyed if you did that. Well, so, you know.
I do agree that part of the fun of being a lawyer is to create a die-hard, locked-in, unmovable document, and then the next guy finds a way to destroy it. That's the fun of being a lawyer.
I have to imagine that every single lawyer who has ever existed was the kid who, growing up, would always try to find a loophole to any rule just so they could have a smug sense of superiority about it. Like, well, you said I can't go in the living room, so I just took a pole and stretched it out over there. I didn't break the law, Mom. Yeah. Then the fact that your vase broke is completely circumstantial. You know, stuff like that.
Well, and you can always blame gravity because had there not been inertia, had there not been stored, what's it called? It's not stored energy, potential energy. Yes. Yeah. So it's all within the ball.
Yeah, it always had the ability to do it.
I think most broken vases that were ball driven can be laid at the feet of Isaac Newton. I think he's responsible. I think had he not discovered gravity and the Newtonian laws, there would be a lot more fresh vases, a lot less sad faces, and a lot happier moms among them all.
I mean, he didn't even have to not discover gravity. Why did he have to pick such a big value for it? Now, you know, like why not make it like a tenth as high so we can, jump over buildings like Superman?
I think what's really interesting about old Ike or Izzy is that not only did he, sort of create this Newtonian laws and gravity discovery, but I think what's even more astounding and astonishing about this guy, he was so full of himself, clearly. Narcissist, I don't know.
Well,
pride.
Most humans are full of themselves. It's kind of goes to the territory.
Well, yes, but that's in the biological sciences, and we'll get to that in a minute. Right now, we're talking about a physicist.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were skipping through to the philosophical, theoretical physicist.
No. We're not there. We'll get there. We'll land there. Sorry, Blaise Pascal is just waiting, nails a biting.
Sorry, audience. I ruined the pacing. Sorry.
Well, but here's the thing. You did. You kind of stepped on my go-to because
go back to Newton. Newton's more important than me. At this
Newton
point.
is where I'm going. And by the way, wouldn't it have been ironic if instead of an apple filling his head, it would have been a fig?
Well, no, honestly, that would make more sense. Give the candy thing at least more reason to exist.
Yeah, it's a cookie.
It's a cookie. There is no way a fig Newton is classified as a cookie. It's too soft.
Well, you know,
It's like a crumpet at best.
I don't even know if you know what a crumpet
I don't either. I don't know. But do you know?
Excellent.
But do you know enough to dispute?
I know enough to know that a monarch should know what a crumpet is because it sounds very monarchy.
No. It sounds like malarkey. You got it mixed up a bit.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing about Newton. The man discovers gravity, right? He didn't invent it. He discovered it. God invented it. And he was so adamant to prove his point, and nobody could take him seriously. He kept going around saying, see, gravity, look, guys, everybody, they go, we don't see it. We don't see it. He said, I got an idea. I'm going to invent calculus. And that will help you guys see what I'm talking. The man invented a mathematical formula.
Well, he co-created calculus.
I'm sorry?
He co-created it.
Saith who?
Saith Lord King Wyatt.
Okay, so who was the co-creator then? Oh, great Lord.
No, not oh great, just Lord King Wyatt. Okay, it's important. Okay?
Lord King Wyatt.
A king's title is his most important aspect of his character.
Certainly.
Besides his policies and his subjects and his kingdom and his army and his tax rate, which is, by the way, really lucrative.
And the size of his domain, which in this case is...
I kind of thought that branched into kingdom, but yeah. I mean, title's important, you know?
Yeah, it is.
I'm just please be respectful for Wyatopia.
No, okay? I get it, Lord King Wyatt. But here's the thing. What in the world kind of intelligence do you have to not just be able to do calculus?
Yeah.
But to invent it first.
Well, again, he co-created and he
who's the other guy?
He co-created it with Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz.
Oh, Leibniz.
Yeah, Leibniz. Of course. I mean, everybody knows that. Everyone.
I didn't know Leibniz took credit for calculus.
He didn't just take credit. He was given it.
Okay, so are you telling me then, and I want to make sure we get this straight, because remember, people come to us for information that can be validated.
Yes.
So are you saying
everything that we say is usable in a court of law?
Yeah. So here's the deal. So are you saying to me that Leibniz, and I did hear now that I think about that, they both sort of stumbled upon this. Yeah. So Newton and Leibniz independently invented calculus. Yeah. The same principle. So there had to be a predecessor to the mathematical formula that gave all of these guys an idea to take it to another level. Wyatt, what were they basing their calculations on? What kind of math happened first? And they said, we need to take this to the next level. And how would they even know where to do with it? Like, what does calculus actually do?
That is a fantastic question. I knew this off the top of my head at one point in time.
Yeah.
However, His Royal Highness needs to consult the scribe of Wyatopia.
Okay. Okay. So, and his name wouldn't be Sir Google by any chance, would it?
No, but it's definitely not that. Okay. So calculus.
Yeah.
Thank you, scribe, is a branch of mathematics focused on the study of continuous change, dealing with concepts like motion, rate of change, and accumulation.
So it's about motion. So it's Newtonian physics.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes more sense. Actually, looking at the review, basically, it's all about discovery, basically taking formulas and either expanding on them or contracting on them to get more precise information. For instance, and this is something everybody should know. If you have a formula that tells you what the acceleration of an object is, if you take the integral of that formula, you get a new formula, which is the formula for instantaneous velocity of that object. Everybody knows this, of course.
Yeah.
And if you take the derivative of the I'm sorry. Are you bored by my?
No, I'm fascinated by it. I'm just trying to see how well you're doing reading this and acting like you're coming off the top of your head.
I know this off the top of my head.
Keep going.
I did. This was my AP physics thing.
Okay, go ahead.
You know what? I don't think you do appreciate this.
No, I promise.
I don't think you do at all.
Well, anyways, if people happen to tune in accidentally and they can't sleep.
I'm so sorry you accidentally stumbled upon the educational version of the podcast.
That's so rare. Trust me, hang on tight because it ain't going to last.
Tune in next week, kids, where we teach you about Newtonian physics.
Okay, so listen, I want you to understand that we as a podcast group decided that we've done so many heavy things. Last week, we had a man who had gone through an abortion. It was terrible. You know, what his, the aftermath of the mentality of people that deal with that. And we've had sex slaves, and we've had, some very heavy things. We had the idea of Israel, and Dinesh D'Souza was on, and we were dealing with the dragon's prophecy and the end of the world. A lot of heavy, and that's okay. Hopefully it's helpful and people enjoy it. But I said, let's lighten it up a little bit. So that's why I keep kind of experimenting with some funny. People happen to be scrolling through YouTube or X and stumble across it. Look at that guy, looks silly. Let's watch. And then they leave immediately realizing they're talking calculus. I'm confused, and off they go. But why I do want to ask you about comedy in general. I remember years ago, you told me that when you got into school, because you were always kind of a wallflower. I don't know if you knew that growing up. I don't know if you remember growing up. I don't know if you remember most of your life. I don't think you do. But you were a wallflower. You kind of kept yourself. I'm a nice kid. And I think you had friends, or at least those you tried to pay to be a friend.
I had subjects.
Yes, indeed. And so they had to be your friend, or they could be executed. And who are we to judge a monarch? He's divinely appointed. Yeah. But you, I think you went into high school. And I don't know if it was your first year, like freshman year, but you decided, you said to yourself, and I remember you telling me this story, and we probably mentioned it once on the podcast, but I think it bears repeating, not because it's interesting, but because it kills time. And that is that you said to yourself, I want to be funny. I'm going to see if I can just kind of like be funny with my friends. And you literally decided to begin to create a personality that had more, that was looking more to have fun and be glib and humorous and sardonic, sarcastic, satirical, whatever your dry sense of humor led you. And next thing you know, you were funny. Can you tell the audience a little bit about that experience, how you really did that? And then how did it work? How did your friends like suddenly go, what happened to you? You're funny? Or did it just sort of naturally happen? And next thing you know, they realized you were funny and didn't even realize you had made this strategy, put it into place. So can you give people a quick rundown on that and make it interesting, or I'll cut it off and we'll go somewhere else.
So basically what happened was, I was in the call with mom, just talking about, you're going to go to high school. It's going to be different. And she's like, you really got to be more like outgoing. And I'm like, this conversation again.
Yes.
You know what? Fine.
Moms.
If I'm going to talk, I'm going to be funny with it.
Okay.
So basically, I would just consciously be aware. Whenever I'm in a conversation, just look for anything that I could make a comedic, take on.
Okay.
Started out, mostly missing because I was new to it.
Yeah.
But over time and lots of time, I just started getting better at doing it. And to the point came where nowadays I don't even think about it. My mind just automatically goes to the funny.
Okay, but let me ask you this though.
Mm-hmm.
So did you try to research how to do jokes?
No.
Did you just watch funny people you like to try to emulate? I mean, were you inspired by a particular style of humor? I'm guessing you saw some that was funny to you and said, well, I can kind of do that. Because tell me how you landed in the genre style.
Well, I'd always been fascinated with comedy, like even before then. And sometimes videos would just appear that I would watch that would help me figure out.
Were they demonic?
I can't prove it either way.
I just wondered if holy water would have had any effect.
No. However, if you would take a hole punch and snip, snip, then I think that holy water would definitely do
that
something.
was horrible.
I know. Honestly, I'm surprised you let me finish that one.
Well, I'm hoping you edit that out before
Why on earth would I edit the King's joke?
That's true. All right. So I was just curious about you, if you somehow, like, how did you start trying to be funny? That's why I thought, well, maybe you watched a comic or something that you said, I get the idea of the rhythm here.
Over the years, I had been, again, just compiling this knowledge internally on like what people say, are the rules of comedy or whatever.
So you kind of did some research.
Not intentionally.
Okay.
It was just because, again, random videos would show up that are like, here's how comedians do funny stuff.
Okay.
And I'm like, that seems interesting.
Okay.
So I watched it, and most of the information would just fly one ear or the other.
Yeah.
But some of it I'd retain.
Okay.
And over time, I would legitimately just, just anytime there was a comedic situation, my brain would go, oh, there was that one thing that I heard about. This is what I can do to make this funny.
Huh.
And so I'd try it. And work or not, I'd be like, okay, let's see. How can I make that better?
Do you have, do you watch comedians, stand-up comics?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
you do?
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite?
I guess I'm a fan of Jeff Dunham.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Now he's a ventriloquist.
Yeah, I mean, and I like it a lot because I feel like it's more of an artistic form of comedy.
It's interesting. I got to tell you something. It's funny. We had a professional ventriloquist.
Yeah.
You remember him?
Oh yeah, I saw him. Yeah.
Taylor Mason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Taylor is very good, and a lot of these guys. And what I really enjoyed about that interview, Wyatt, was, and I was kind of a little bit, what's the word I want to say? Revealing of my own biases. I learned something. I don't like, how do we do this? I don't like comedy competitions to try to be the funniest. I don't like even I don't even know that I like asking a comic, hey, do you like this comic? Because it's kind of like, who cares? I'm a comedian. I'm trying to be funny. It's very hard. Who cares what I think of this other guy? Let him try to figure it out. It's hard. What good is it for me? I'm not going to hire him anyways. I'm the comic. So let the people decide. If they say he's funny, he's funny. If they will buy a ticket, he's funny. If they'll come see the show, he's funny. So I feel like that is the key, is just let the people decide for themselves, right? And they will. And that's the beauty of free speech. Let everybody decide what they like and don't like. And some people are going to like stuff you don't, and some people are going to like stuff you think they shouldn't like, and it's kind of none of your business. But what's interesting to me about ventriloquists is I always had a disdain for them. When I grew up, and I've had these conversations, when I grew up in the comedy clubs, there was a pecking order. There was a hierarchy. There was a status within the community of comics as to hierarchy of how we valued it. There was the comic, the guy that we thought was just had a really great insight that sometimes even the comics just saw the funny that he was doing that others didn't. Sometimes it was guys that the audience didn't even laugh at, but the comics just got it because it was so subtle or intriguing or sophisticated. And then you have just the great, one-liner, not just one-liner, but great observational guy, solid. Jay Leno was considered one of the best stand-ups ever, and guys that were just solid every time. And then you would get down to beyond that, you get like the comedy magician, and then you get the juggler guy, and then you get the guitar act guy. And it's all these sort of novelty ways of selling your comedy, carrot tops with all of the props. Well, ventriloquism was in that category. Oh my gosh. It's like low budget. And if you remember that conversation, Taylor was treated like that, with disdain, like, oh my God, you're the prop guy. You got a puppet. But the truth of the matter is, I kind of felt like that too. And then I saw Jeff Dunham. Matter of fact, I don't even know this, why. I worked with Jeff Dunham 1 week. I was the feature act and he was the headliner at a comedy club in Pittsburgh. I worked with him. And this was before he was big famous. His most famous character at that time, so this would have been the 90s, was a guy named Peanut.
Oh, yeah, he's still young.
Okay. And so Peanut was his most famous character. And then he's gotten more since then. But I can't not acknowledge that this guy is really great and very funny. And so what I realized was, and this came up in the conversation, it's a duo. There's always been Lewis. What was it? Jerry Lewis did an act for a while with Dean Martin and Lewis, and there was Abbott and Costello, and there was Laurel and Hardy. These were duos. These were teams that had the straight man and the funny guy and this and that. And then I realized, what's with ventriloquism? You just create a duo team. So it's like, what's wrong with that? And so I just realized that somehow I got this sort of obstinate, I don't know, weird, stuck-up view of somebody else's skill set that they chose to do. And I had no right to make that call. And it allowed me to kind of purge myself in front of him and say, my bad for thinking like that, because it's still hard. If a guy does something and he works hard and he gets good at the craft and people laugh, he's a comic. She's a comic. There's a girl out there who's a ventriloquist named Nina Conti. Matter of fact, she is, I don't know if she's much of an actress, but she was in a brand new documentary called Spinal Tap 2. Have you ever seen that?
Spinal Tap Part 2?
Yeah. It's like, did you ever see Spinal Tap?
Yeah, that's the one with
right. Well, anyway,
guy.
that's it.
Yeah.
So 40 years later, they got the next version.
Yeah.
Took them a while to write it.
Honestly, I'm always concerned whenever a movie sequel comes out that's literally older than like most of the target audience.
Right.
Because it almost never works.
Did you like it?
Spinal Tap 2 somehow managed to be like the one exception to that rule.
I'll be darned.
It was basically the original, but part 2. And
Well,
that's like the highest compliment you can give a sequel.
It's fascinating because they're playing like old guys. So they really just played it up. We're old now. Let's just joke that. Yeah. But anyways, the one guy had a girlfriend that he would talk to. That's Nina Conti. Yeah. So she's a ventriloquist. Now, here's the thing, and I'm just talking to my audience out there because my Christian audience knows that I'm a Christ follower. I care about talking about words, and you talked about, your lordship and what this and that, and we can use whatever words we want. I'd never cursed on stage because as a Christian, I didn't think I should. I didn't think it was appropriate. Plus, I thought it was harder to be clean because it is, and it made me more, hopefully, creative. So I don't use those words. And yet, one of my favorite comics, and I can't deny it, I was influenced deeply by George Carlin because he was smart, and I loved trying to think of ideas and find funny by saying something deep. The guy cursed up a storm. He was horribly crude with his stuff. He's an atheist. He was blasphemous. He was all of these things. And I have to sort of wade through all that toxicity to see the craft that he was so great at, because I don't want to hear that language. And he didn't have to do that language. He just chose to. So Nina has this one, her famous person is called Monkey. She just calls him Monkey. It's just a monkey puppet. She's really good. Because you're improvising this other character while you're playing the straight man, not knowing what the character is going to say, but you're doing it. So you're shifting. And then she puts these fake mouth onto people, and they can make their mouths go back and forth. And so she lets a person come up from the stage and says, "How you doing?" and interviews them. And of course, she says their lines, and they just end up start going, yeah, and they start gesturing to try to play along. But you got to be good. You got to be able to improvise. You got to be able to nail that. And she's really, really good at it. She's very talented, very funny, and she's dirty. So what am I getting at? What do I do with that? I can't deny their skill set. I just wish that wasn't the direction they had to take it, but they do. And so that always frustrated me when all the comics that used to come up to me when I was in the clubs and said, man, I always wanted, I've been thinking about getting clean, because they saw I was being clean. They knew it was harder. And I would always say to them, listen, I don't know, it does make you a better writer, but if you're going to use a word, a curse word, at least be smart enough and just use it once or twice as a special punch that will really get it. Just use it. Use the technique of the word in a way where it can be most effective, because words matter. In the Bible, Paul said, I find my former works as dung. Now, you can say shite. I say that because we're usually in the U.S., so nobody can think of that as being inappropriate on a Christian network. I think they say it like that in Europe. But you know what the word I'm using. But my point is that we consider that an off-color word. It's a word that isn't supposed to be said in polite company, but it's a scatological term, and we don't think it's appropriate. It's crude, but as I've told you guys before, the word comes from how the peasants, and you should know all about peasantry, Your Highness, that's the word they used for feces. And so the blue bloods, the hierarchy, the monarchy thought, I don't talk with your language because it's beneath me, even use words you use. And that's what turned that into a crude and inappropriate use of the word feces. So, Paul said, my former life was dung. That's the word he used. My point is that sometimes words, hard words, earthy words, strong words are important to get a point across. Jesus calls the Pharisees a generation of vipers, son of a snake. You son of a snake. We have a similar term, you son of a dog. I made a whole joke about it. And of course, we don't use the word dog. We use the actual term that's used in kennels for people who raise dogs. It's called bitch. Now that sounds, how dare you say that? That's the old classic term for a female dog. That's what they're called. But by calling somebody a female dog, you're insulting them. Far enough. But the word wasn't bad. It became bad because it became an insult. So once again, it's the use and control of words that allows people to try to control you, your thoughts, your ability to speak, to reason, to be part of the cultural milieu and have conversations, because they say you don't have access to those words. The midget joke I did was not to in any way insult the people that have that condition, and it is a condition. It was to show how we decide a word is bad out of the blue. It wasn't bad for 50 years. Now it's bad. Are there words that aren't kind, that are deleterious? They are designed to be hurtful? Yes. Do we as Christians not use them? Yeah. We watch our mouth. We watch what we say. We try to be the kindest of people. So we do make those distinctions and draw those lines. Yes, we do. But nevertheless, the words can also be manipulated at a whim when we suddenly say, you don't get to say this word because it makes somebody uncomfortable. It's like, well, that's on them maybe. When is it your turn as the victim to say, maybe you got to suck it up? That's what the whole midget joke was about. Because why does one group get to decide for the rest of us what's appropriate and not? What if I say I don't agree with you? I think your words are inappropriate. And that's where we realize what totalitarianism actually is. The control of language is the control of communicating ideas so they can control your ability to be an agent, a free thinker and speaker, which is the power that God gave you. Even our founding father says that the pursuit of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is given to us by our Creator. Our rights come from our Creator. So it does matter the words, and it does matter if you use the words well, and it does matter if you let people decide what words you're allowed to use, and it does matter as a Christian to also very, very strenuously learn and teach yourself to judge context over content. Sometimes the word in context, based on what you're trying to accomplish, is appropriate, is necessary, and it's okay as a mature adult to be able to use that to navigate into a space that's trying to communicate an idea that can actually change you, heal you, help you, or if nothing else, make you think. Well, if comedy can do anything well, it's to make you think. And what we think about is, I've thought of that. That's happened to me before. Oh, you're talking about life that I've experienced. And when we find that commonality, we laugh. And that's where comedy can be great. Well, the comic that I'm bringing on, an old friend, You don't get much better than him. He's great at talking about family, having children, being married, having a wife, getting older. He is saying, let's all relate to this if you're of this ilk, of this age. You've lived this life. Here's what it's like. Has he got fans of 15-year-olds? I don't know, probably not so much. But that's not his audience. His audience are people who have lived a life, been married, stayed married, and are trying to figure it out. It's funny. And he also has an incredible story about addiction, about being an atheist, and how God had brought him out of that space, doing comedy clubs just like I did, being, darker and in language and drunk and this and that. And God saved him. So it's an amazing story in so many ways. And so, as I said, there's a lot of hard things to talk about in this age. I will continue to try to do that, but I hope I'm always enlightening you and informing you and educating you. And sometimes, hey, can't we lighten it up a little bit? Well, that's exactly what you get today. Without further ado, please enjoy a little backstage conversation with two comics talking about comedy, talking about Christ, talking about addiction, talking about a journey, talking about life, and all along that journey, maybe, just maybe, giving you a chuckle along the way. I know you've heard of him. I know you probably are a fan. So enjoy this. God's comic Brad Stine and my old friend, Jeff Allen. Well, when Brad Stine has issues, it's always important to bring people on that have insight and wisdom and knowledge that you just can't get anywhere else. But when that fails, I have to get Jeff Allen. Now, here's the problem. He's an old friend, a very talented comic, interesting story. And so my hope, my dream is not only to inspire you guys with what we're about to talk about, but see if I can do that without going over the same stuff he's talked about for the last 30 years. I always see if I can find another angle to somebody. And so, yeah, you're going to hear a little bit about stand-up comedy and about what it means to be a believer in that world, but also just in the arts in general. They're important, they matter, and the Christians used to be the best at it. So let's see if we can remember that. And bear with me as a couple of comics who might have to go deep in the dark underbelly of stand-up comedy and talk about a code that you won't understand, but we don't care. We're having fun. Please welcome my old buddy and stand-up comic aficionado, Jeff Allen. Hello.
Former apostle of comedy.
Indeed, we were. Apparently, we're apostate now.
That's right, apostate of comedy. Yeah, exactly.
But, man, it's good to see you, and thanks for coming on. You're a very, very busy man. I'm shocked you would give me any time.
I am busy, that's for sure. But anything that gets me out of the house and away from her and her list is fine with me.
Well, you've made a lot of money off of her and her list.
That's absolutely. Somebody said to me, what would you do? I said, if she divorced me, I've already told her I'm moving to the basement and I have no career. So you understand that the money stops when you divorce me. So it's better off just keeping me around. Right. And so we're marriage of convenience.
Well, I wanted to, actually, I was on your podcast a while ago and I had this idea.
Yeah, we broke it into two. You were so chatty.
I was chatty.
We had to break it into two. I was chatty.
And this was all without being paid, which is really rare. Normally, there's at least a check that comes with the end of that chattiness. Not with Jeff Allen.
Our budget is zero.
Zero. But it's just a little way to launch our little talk. I hope we have some interest. I'm sure we'll have some great things to think. But one of the things I was thinking about, Jeff, and I kind of started with it with you, and it kind of never went that way. But I haven't had a lot of comics on this show, and not because I have any reason not to. It'd be the easiest thing to do is find comics. But I know comics. I've been around. I'm interested in people that aren't like me. That's not an experience I get all the time. But when I am with a comic, there is a beautiful shorthand that we get that nobody else gets. I'm sure if you're a lead guitarist in a band, you meet another one, there's this magic. Like, I get it. I don't have to explain anything. I don't have to set anything up for you. I don't have to say, I hope this doesn't offend you. That's the beauty of comedy. We don't give a crap what we say to each other.
We have pretty thick skin. And I tried to explain to somebody, I go, when you have beer bottles thrown at you and you're told you suck. Yeah, just
meanwhile,
with meaning and force, you kind of you can handle.
And while you suck, you still got another 30 minutes if you want to get your check. It's like actually,
hell. The funniest one was when I got hit with a beer bottle in Jersey. I was at a college at midnight, and they were drunk. They're standing on stools or yelling, but I'm working because I got to get paid. And they hit me with a beer bottle. I said, "Thank you. I can leave now." Because there is a paragraph in the contract that talks about certain conditions. And my life being threatened with projectiles allows me to get out of my contract. And the woman on the way back on the way to the car, she's drunk. The one that hired me, she's screaming, "I'm going to sue you!" And I looked at her and I said, "Look, lady, I got about this much self-respect left, and I'm taking it and going home." So sue me all you want.
Well, colleges were different back then too. Anybody's drunk, it sucks. I mean, I don't know who came up with this idea, and I know you heard it a million times. Oh, they'll all be drunk, the late show. They'll be great. They'll laugh at everything. I said, there can't be a worse audience than drunk people. Yeah, well, they're terrible.
They're out of their minds. They're literally out of their minds.
And when they do their funny zinger trying to heckle you, first off, it's stupid usually, but secondly, when you zing them back and heckle stop and they don't grasp it and keep going, you realize I got no weapons now, because they don't realize.
And I found not early, but probably quite a while ago, but that I had a hard time following. I got so good at those college towns and just brutally burying people, and especially the young girls who were pretty, that were used to being the center of attention. And I look at them and go, look, I'm not one of your preppy, yuppie country club boyfriends who are going to spend all night kissing your backside so I can get into your drawers later on at night. I said, I will bury you, lady. Now shut up, And of course the place is cracking up. And then I'd go back to, hey, I got a wife and two small kids. And they go, no, go back to picking on her.
Yeah. Which was a wonderful option for comedy. It's so fun. I hate to sound like the old guy, but I am. I'm a guy that's been doing comedy over 30 years. And so I'm watching on the social media, it's the very popular thing is to do the crowd work. Right. Like we found this sophisticated jazz thing that none of you guys understand. Right. We're going, oh, you mean like when you say what you do for a living thing that we've done for 30 years, that one, that we do it so easily that we didn't make a thing out of it. We decided to write material. That one?
Well, that was, I can remember a time in Arizona, and it's funny how these things, they were such anomalies that they stand out over all the years. But I had a guy that just tried to do it, but he wasn't good at it, and he had a total chaos. I mean, I hit the stage, and it was like a total riot going on, and he just runs off because he's lost total control of the room. So I remember walking out and some guy yelling at me, and I go, look, pal, I actually write material. I don't need you like that jerk. So he comes after me after the show. Why would you say that about me? I said, look, pal, you dig me a trench. I'm climbing on your back to get out. I spent 5 minutes trashing the other comic for creating this chaos.
Well, and we probably, I mean, maybe this is, I like these things to be organic, these conversations. So, maybe we should stay here since we started here. Do you see a difference in the younger guys' comedy and when we came up? Obviously, there's differences. Things change. There's different ways that people accomplish things. Maybe some guys have come up with some new fresh techniques. So it's like, oh, this is another way to do it. But the thing I noticed, and again, you always run the risk of being archaic or, I'm the old guy saying, get off the lawn, thinking your way was better. But I got to say that I don't know even what gen it is, Z, X, blah, I don't know. But these new guys that do a lot of this narrative, just kind of talk about things, and then I'm on the phone, and then they make some reference to some pop thing that all these kids understand that I don't even know what they're talking about. And it's not necessarily set up and punch. It's kind of like just sort of day to day. Let me walk you through it, and they consider that kind of sophisticated. But I don't see it as really deep comedy anymore. I don't see some really great technique as much. Now, am I just thinking I'm old school?
I'll be honest with you, I don't watch comedy.
I don't either.
During COVID, we did the New Material Monday at Zany's, and I walked in, and Nate Bargatze comes in, and I had no clue who I'd never seen him or anything. And it was very nice because he said to me, he goes, "Oh, wow." He said, "I'm a fan of yours." And I said, "Well, thank you, young man."
Yeah, right.
Anyway, he sits down, and then the MC walks over and says, "Nate, what do you want me to say?" He says, "Well, I'll be on Jimmy Fallon's show tomorrow night." And then he goes on stage. I go, "Who's that?" He goes, "You don't know who Nate?" I go, I'm clueless. I discovered Bill Burr during COVID. And he'd been around forever, and Bill, I love Boston. I lived there and I loved it. I had to get out of there to survive. I mean, I was quit drinking but anyway, I don't really watch much. I will tell you this, there's a young guy named Matt Rife.
Yeah.
Who is huge. Yeah. And Tammy follows this stuff. It comes into her feed because she clicks on comedians. And anyway, my niece calls me one day and she says, "Uncle Jeff, could you get me tickets to see Matt Rife at the Funny Bone in Cincinnati?" And I was scheduled there like in July, and he's there in August. I says, "Oh, I know one of the owners, actually." That's the beauty of aging in this business. Your friends actually become entrepreneurs. And so anyway, I called my buddy up, and he says, "Oh, I can get you. What do you need?" I said, "Matt Rife." He goes, "Oh, God, Jeff, you're like the 15th person that asked me for tickets." I said, "Who is this kid?" Yeah. And he said, "We could sell this thing out 10 times, 10 shows in a row, no problem." And anyway, I was able to scarf some tickets. I went in to do my show, and the manager goes, "I actually like you, so here's a couple of tickets for your niece." And I went online and looked at it. It was the crowd work that they do. And like you said, I mean, it's nothing new. As a matter of fact, that the rumor around backstage at Zany's now from the young guys is that it's old now. The audiences are tired of it. They're scrolling through it without really watching it anymore.
Well, I guess it was a novelty to those who had never seen that before. So it was interesting. Well, oh my gosh.
I don't know about you, but I grew up, a huge Steve Martin fan.
Of course.
So I was laying on the floor laughing, rolling around like kids did. My dad, I look up and he was watching the whole thing. He looks at me, shakes his head and goes, "I don't get it." Yeah. And left. And my dad was a huge comedy fan.
So let me explore that. So I guess we have to be honest that art is subjective, right? I mean, I'm not a big fan of opera, let's say. And, but what you find with
one of your best friends is
he's an opera singer. Which was important because Jeff, it sounded like you might as well be said you want to see the polka band. It's like, no, not only no, but no, do I want to see that?
And I wonder how many people actually deeply appreciate of the upper echelon elitists. How much when they get the tickets to the they buy the season pass and sit there.
Right. Or if they're indicating their sophistication by going to see it, or if they actually.
Well, it's funny. I did a show for a fundraiser for an organization that they built. Their names are on wings of hospitals. This is old money in Arizona. Old money. So Lenny came with me, and I bombed horrifically. It was just 45 minutes, but they're old and rich, so they're polite. They're not yelling.
Was it a corporate?
No, actually, it was a foundation that again was going to build a wing to the hospital. So they bring all these people in who are going to donate millions of dollars. And Lenny says to me my manager says to me after the show, he goes, "What the heck was that?" I go, "You think these people are going to Vegas to watch Shecky Green?" Yeah, right. I mean, you honestly think they're going to spend their vacation going to a comedy show? These people have never seen a live stand-up comedy. They see string quartets, they see opera. So the guy that hired me happened to see me with the Gaither event and thought it would be kind of nifty to bring a comedian in.
And it can be. But what people don't understand is how subtle and meticulous things have to be to make comedy work. They see us oftentimes in the best case scenario. They see us filming a special where the audience was there and the lighting was there and they were ready to laugh and they weren't going to heckle, because it's all about making this magic work. And then there's editing, and it's the best case scenario. And that doesn't mean it's not real that you weren't funny, but not every show is made the same. You end up in scenarios that are not that way, and they see you and they laugh and it's perfect. And go, man, I got to have you. Now you get there, it's like, now it's on the back of a truck, out in a field, and I found this Kmart, Michael, that worked. The kids are going to keep walking around because we got a tilt-a-whirl over here.
Oh yeah, and I had a hot air balloon.
Yeah, and then the guys over here, doing the thing. But nevertheless, go do what you did on TV, and it's like you don't understand. There is an aesthetic necessity to make comedy work.
I always liken it and explain. Lenny's is extremely aggressive, certainly with the corporate, to make sure the lighting and the sound and every best possible condition we can get for the arrangement. But I always liken it to a play in a theater.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're watching a play and there's all this crap going, hot air balloons. Right. My favorite was the guy right before I finished walked out with a megaphone and goes, "The hot dogs are ready, kids. The hot dogs are ready." So we packed up our merch and left and went to the golf course.
But you know what? I'm glad that we're kind of doing this, because I think it might be interesting to folks to understand how much goes into what comedy is, because the problem, the double-edged sword of comedy is when you're doing it right and you're good at it and people are watching it, it seems effortless.
It seems spontaneous.
It's just, I'm just making crap up, and boy, am I funny. And we are funny.
Well, I love it when they come to me after an hour and a half and they go, "How do you remember all that stuff?" I go, "Well, when you do it every day of your life for 40 years.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And you have no idea how much stuff I forgot.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Do you still prepare set lists before you go on?
No.
Yeah. I know where I'm starting. I know where I'm at.
It really depends. So if I'm working out the next set, because I want to eventually film it, I have to remember what I'm trying to do, because it is kind of fresh.
Yeah, I just did that with Dry Bar.
Yeah.
This was the toughest 25, 30 minute that I've had to do because I didn't have old stuff that I could rework and
well, and if you didn't have a chance to get it out there on the road and figure it out, then that
was another
tricky.
thing, Tammy. And I took 6 weeks off from May to June, and then another 2 weeks in July.
Matters. When I filmed my last special, Laugh While Legal, which I did at the Zanies at the lab, I hadn't worked for 2 weeks, and it shows to me.
To you, it does. Well, that's the point.
I knew I didn't have my groove. I did 2 sets. I always try to do 2 sets when I film, in the hope that something can be fixed if you go sideways, or you get a better audience or whatever. But again, comedy. Okay. Well, one of the questions I was going to ask you, but maybe this will correlate, is of all the people I've met in the arts, usually musicians, actors, whatever, magicians, who knows, and that are very talented. To a man, they fear stand-up comedy. To them, that is the pinnacle of huevos, man. That is, if you can do that thing, you are the man, because that is beyond our comprehension. And it's hard to think, I don't know what you're getting at, because it's what I do. And I might have mentioned this on your podcast. We do tend to disregard our gifts as less valuable or less difficult, because we can do it. So if you're good at something, it feels like, I don't know what the thing is. But it's hard, I guess, to do stand-up comedy.
Well, I sucked for a good solid 2 years. I had a club owner tell me in Chicago. I started in 78, so 1980 he comes to me. And I love these people, by the way, that come into your life, these well-meaning. You'll never make a living at this as long as you understand that. And in hindsight, you're going, what was the end game of that? I mean, was that to get me to quit, or was it to encourage me to, to understand, to not be frustrated when I'm not making any money at it? But I had terrible stage fright, terrible. And I still to this day have, when I did America's Got Talent 4 years ago, 2021, 90-second set. I blinked twice. And it's my material. I mean, it wasn't like I was trying. I just got to the third line, gone, can't remember it, stood there. I looked at Simon Cowell and I said, can I start again? And he goes, of course, absolutely. We're taping. Don't worry about it. So anyway, I start again. Line 1, line 2, line 3's gone. Can't remember. Now I'm panicking. This flop sweat. I love the flop.
They don't have any kind of monitors?
I didn't even think to do it.
Okay.
It's 90 seconds and it's material I've been doing. I mean, they wrote it. I mean, that was the problem. They took things out they didn't want in. One of the lines they took out, which it just kills me, this political correctness. It was about, see, now I'm drawing a blank, but that was it. Leaving with golf clubs on my shoulder, golf shoes in my hand, and Tammy asked, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going bowling, Colombo." By the way, if you're taking notes, that's the wrong answer.
Yes.
So anyway, they took that out because they felt it was disparaging to women, all women. Right. And I've tried to explain to these people, I'm not talking about women. I'm talking about woman, the one I married, and I have every right to, because But
that also integrates in kind of when we mentioned Matt Rife and newer guys, and they're. What is comedy? What is it? What is the parameters? Does somebody get to just arbitrate that? Right. Do we allow the culture and the seasons to dictate how we get to discuss the way we want to be funny? Is that really what is a free place? Is that the best use of comedy?
Well, to me, it was always determined by the audience. And I, when I became a believer, I was 78, 40, 96, so 18 years in, and in the secular version of me. So I become a believer, and then I made the decision to pull back, to change the language. Up until then, I did what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. But then again, there was no social media to point out the fact that I was a heathen and a lowlife. Now what you get is, and I'll name her, Kathy Griffin. You get someone like her who has millions of followers, and she decides, and she points at you and says, and then she turns her sheep on them, and then now you got 1 million people hammering you on social media. I've been fortunate. One, I don't feel the desire to push buttons or create followers through controversy. I really don't.
You're not trying to manipulate.
Not at all. And again, I've had people, they don't like me because I've had churches tell me, we're not bringing Jeff in, or tell Lenny, we're not bringing Jeff in. We don't like the way he talks about his wife. And that's fine. Again, so my question is, at night when I look in the mirror, I get on my knees, and that's the beauty of being a person of faith. I believe the Holy Spirit will let me know when I cross a line. I really do believe that. And when I hear something 3 or 4 times, I'll look at it, that's over the top. I have a line, and I've been asking the audience. I have 2 ways of doing it, and I'm asking them. And it's funny because my audience, it was my kid playing Little League, and his first pitch they'd ever faced, never faced live pitching, wham, gets hit in the head. And I said, he goes down like a Kennedy, So now I say, I've had some emails on that where people go, one woman wrote, "It's the cruelest thing I've ever heard." I go, well, what a charmed life you've lived, if that's the cruelest thing you've ever heard. Yeah. So anyway, I changed it to, he goes down like Trump and Butler, and I said, like Trump, he stands up with his fist. And so I ask, I go, all right, which one? 90% Kennedy. Right. Because it's 60 years ago. But that's one of the ways I process what I determined might be. And then I had another line where they won't grade English papers with red ink because apparently the sight of red ink is too traumatic for our children. And I go, really? My English papers came home looking like OJ's driveway, So now I go, too soon. I mean, you get the ooze, you get the boom. And then I changed it to try it out. I don't know. I forget the line now. Oh, a crime scene. It looked like a crime scene, which is mildly amusing. I like the OJ line,
Well, and it's what gives it power. But that's a self-editing thing. I think that I should have every right to write, produce, direct my stand-up. And it's interesting, in my career, I have all these people in my life I hired to do
everything else but the comedy.
Yeah.
You know, I ran my business into the ground to the point where I was had the IRS all over me. I had all, you know, we had nothing. And so I remember I was in my late 30s playing golf with a guy who was one of these corporate mentors. We just happened to get paired up, you know, and I said, boy, if I could do my career over again. He goes, what would you do different? I'd hire someone to be my businessman. I do terrible business. And he goes, why can't you do it? And at 38, I thought I was ancient and, you know, who wants to, never has been comic, you know? Anyway, when I got to Nashville and then when Lenny stepped out of running Zanies, I said, would you be willing to run my career? And at that point I had some traction and it's worked out really well. But again, I have to understand your skill set in life. If you want to succeed, understand your weaknesses, make those strengths. I guess I could have taken a class, business class and learned all that on the side of it. Now, some guys are really good at business, but most artists
most aren't.
are not.
No.
You know?
Well, you know, but it does lend itself to this curious dilemma that a believer, a Christ follower finds ourselves in, because I feel like we have a double element of responsibility. Because we're not just responsible for maybe how people perceive us or how we're trying to deliver. Because the truth of the matter is, I could sit here all day and talk about free speech and my rights and nobody's going to edit me and blah. But if people don't like me, I'm not going to do it because it's not working.
Well, that's the point. That's where the marketplace comes in. And again, the internet has allowed, and you remember when it was just the Tonight Show, just the Letterman Show, and maybe HBO Showtime. And those were the 4 outlets to get what you do out to the masses. Yeah. And if they didn't like you, and they didn't like me, I mean, I in hindsight, I'm thinking my issue may have been I tell long stories. So I don't know. But whatever it was that they wanted, I didn't have when I lived in New York and LA. So I was kind of stuck until the internet came, and then there's streaming services like Drybar. Drybar changed my life, but at least now you can call people who dig what you do. So why not keep doing it? But like you said, if I'm working, Leno said that. I think it was a comic that said to him, I want to do the Tonight. This is before Leno was host. So when Carson was still the host. And he says, change. And he goes, what do you mean? He goes, you want to do the Tonight Show? They don't want what you do. Change what you do. Why would I do that? Trying to get into your thick skull. Yeah. You know, you can't, it's the old alcoholic thing where you're banging your head against a brick wall and then somebody walks over and goes, you know, there's a door right over there. Yeah. Yeah, but I'm going to get through the wall.
I'm determined.
Yeah. So anyway, now there's so many different outlets, and I think it's a double-edged sword because all of a sudden you get these, a million followers, and you get out in public and realize that what you do isn't even a viable, marketable skill. I mean, it's great on the internet because it's 30 seconds, but you put yourself in front of an audience for an hour. And, you know, I worked with a girl, like I was the low end of the corporate show. You know, they paid my fee, so I went. But the girl that was the headliner distorted her face on Instagram and made these funny videos. And I stuck around for 10 minutes just to see how that played live, and it didn't. So you had all these people who were fans of them, but again, it was a different genre. You're on the telephone. It looks great.
I forgot her name, but I did a movie with her. I know who you're talking about. She's funny on her little
right, absolutely. But it's a different genre live.
Well, here's the thing, though, and again, we've stirred up a lot of curiosity about free speech. Just being practical about trying to accomplish something. What good does it do to do the same thing over again? If it's not working, you have to change, or you're just happy to be stuck in.
Well, you're foolish if
you're just foolish. But
if you can't adapt, you're foolish.
But okay. But here's the thing. I grew up in the world, and I started professionally in '88. So, you know, it wasn't like early 70s where you could do virtually anything, and prior days and whatever. But you did get to joke about people. You did get to make fun of people, and nobody took it like a personal.
Well, they
attack.
judged the material. I think they judged it on the malice of heart.
Yeah.
If there was something malicious, Americans are pretty.
Yeah.
You know, they're fair-minded people for the most part.
But Jeff, one of the things that makes comedy interesting, and I don't even know, and I do it, but I don't even know if I could unravel why it works. But there's guys like, I guess, let me try to think of who I feel I enjoyed, was like Louis C.K. There's guys that some of the moments when they get to a punch or a setup, it's so clearly not to be said.
Right.
It's so over the top wrong that it's funny because it's satire or whatever the word would be. Clearly, he's saying it because, well, you shouldn't say that. That's why he said it, because he knows you're not supposed to say it. That's why we're laughing, because, oh, it looks like that. I have kind of thought that way. Comedy, when done well, can expose yourself to who you are.
Right.
It can kind of reveal yourself. I am kind of racist over here, I guess. I do kind of, maybe I'm misogynistic a little bit, but we're humans.
Right.
We make mistakes. Aren't we trying to fix those things? But
of course I am. I was born in the 1950s.
Right.
So the rules have changed considerably. But
if they stop me from being able to make a joke, and I still do it to this day, and I work mainly churches now. And I've always done this. I don't think I did it in the Apostles of Comedy. I don't think, but I go out in the crowd. I do like Robin Williams stuff. I've done it for years. I literally will just start walking out in the crowd, and I'll stand on the pew. And I just have always done that engagement, especially if it's a smaller crowd. Yeah. I'm trying to bring them together. So I get out there and get that. And I always pick on teenagers, always have. Right. And I'll say things like, just this, it'll sound crude, not crude, but maybe a little out of context, but I might say, well, that's because you're 16 and you're stupid.
Right.
You might say that and say, oh my gosh. But then I'll always say, but so was I when I was 16. And by the way, when you become 26, you'll understand what so I always would have
There's only one thing dumber than a 16-year-old. That's a 15-year-old.
Yes. Yeah, there is a gradation.
Yeah.
But my comedy became a way, I hope, to explain things to people that they're not able to see. I've always, if there was anything, Jeff, I wanted to be, especially when I came into the Christian comedy for the most part, I wanted to be sophisticated. I wanted to be smart I didn't want to be a churchy comic. Right. And when I started, and it was around, I don't know when you started getting into churches in
96. I think.
Oh, okay. So, probably about the same time I did.
We were told that, first of all, you don't get paid. It's all love offering. Oh. And I said, I can't leave the house on the ifcom that people will be generous.
Right.
I need some kind of guarantee. And then the other one was, the first Gaither event I did, they took me off to the side the next day and said, you were really funny last night, but could you mention you love your wife? Oh, yeah. And I go, they don't know that. And the interesting thing was when I went to the breakout and I did my set and I left, and I remembered, I got to go back and tell them I love Tammy. So I go back and I start sobbing, talking about her. My line to the churches that complained about the way I talked about her was, look, I could stand up here and tell you for 30 minutes what I love about her. It'd be great. You'd think it was wonderful and noble, but you wouldn't laugh a bunch. I said, I tried to find, Foxworthy said this to me. First time he did something about his marriage, he went to a club in Atlanta and it hit really hard. Driving home, he goes, gee, I wonder if it happens in my house, if it happens in other people's homes. And that was kind of the genesis for what he did. And I've always kind of worked inside out. When I was doing drugs and alcohol, it was 80% drugs and alcohol material. I mean, that's what I talked about. Every story I told began, I was trashed the other night, and
I'm fine now,
when you're in a club, and everybody, half the crowd is trashed, so, and then when I got married, I started working that way, with the kids and all of that. But, I think that most Americans, and I'm not talking about Gen Z or X or something. They're different. They've been raised differently.
Yeah.
They have a different radar. Most Americans. I mean, I've had recently. I did a theater in New Jersey, and the theater manager, she came backstage after the show, and she said, I hired you. I run this place, and then in the next sentence, she says, "There's not a thing that you stand for that I believe in, but boy, you're funny." And I go, I remember that's the way we used to look at things.
Yes.
I don't have to agree with you to get your humor, to understand it. Now, if I was doing politics, maybe that's a different issue. Twitter, when Twitter came out, I would engage for 3 volleys. I thought it was funny that I would say something and then like immediately somebody would call me on it. And the most interesting one was an apologetic. I said something about the Christian worldview. I remember this. This is when I realized I'm not made for Twitter because I just really don't enjoy going back and forth.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it. But it was about the Christian worldview. I got onto this karma thing, and I remember reading about the caste system. And I was one of these karma people. Get a good parking place. Must have did something good. Yeah. But then you actually read up on the caste system in India, and it's the most brutal system ever devised by man.
Yeah.
I can't take you out of your squalor because it would ruin your penance for the previous life's mistakes you made. I'm doing you a favor by not helping you out of poverty.
Right.
And I thought, my God, how sad. Well, then I realized Christianity is really the only worldview that says to the strong, it's your obligation to turn around and pick up the weak. That's your job.
Yeah.
And every other worldview says if you're crush them. I mean, this is how we advance the species.
Well, in fact.
So anyway, some guy writes me back.
Oh.
And we got engaged for a very smart guy, an apostate, a former pastor, really well versed, way beyond my knowledge of the Bible. And I finally, on the 3rd volley, said to him, "Well, I believe what I believe because I believe it to be true." And he goes, "Well, preach it, brother." And I said, "Have a nice life." And I don't have any other answer than, for what I believe and why I believe it. But I don't want to believe a lie.
No, well, no. I just had my first interview with an atheist, and I have had this deep longing to do atheists because I have watched, I don't know how many interviews, how many debates from William Lane Craig's to,
Lennox and Dawkins.
all those guys who are so brilliant. And I've listened, and I'm shouting at the phone, of course. Right. It's like, no, because I was like, I know what my answer is, but I never get to say it. I have to wait for them. And I had this epiphany, and I think I might be onto something. But I had William Lane Craig was on my show. And so I said, I need you to kind of represent the atheist view because there's things about them I don't understand. It's not to be, I'm not trying to be insulting or diminishing. I'm serious. Some things seem illogical. They don't seem coherent. So I just want to make sure I'm not missing something. Am I defining something that isn't a straw man kind of thing? Or is this legit how they think? It's because if they do, this doesn't make sense to me. And the biggest basically being there's no meta narrative. There's no absolute purpose in life. I said, well, then if that's true, then there's no purpose in life. Clearly, if there's no novel, your chapter's irrelevant.
Right.
So to add a little, I just am nice to people, and that's all. That's what matters to me, and that's the only purpose I made. I said, no, we're all going to die, and we're all going to the heat death of the universe disappears. So none of this matters unless there's something else.
Yeah, Solomon's words were, "You're a vapor. This life is a vapor."
So to pretend like if I act like I did a good thing, it matters when I die and go to eternal unconsciousness simply is illogical. You can pretend that it has value, but don't act like it does because it doesn't. That's all I'm trying to understand. So I talked to this atheist, and I take a whole new attack. And I told him, I said, "You're going to be a guinea pig."
Right.
But and so I apologize if but I I believe that believers cede way too much ground to you people when we have a conversation, because I think everything you do, everything you think, every moment you make is God breathed. You couldn't do it without God, and you don't see it. And that's not me. That's on you.
Right.
You chose not to think there could be something immaterial. You're the one that chose there could not be something transcendent. You're the one that limited that access to potential revelation.
Right.
And then when you get confounded, you're confused. Well, science will figure out. Somebody say, well, look, you set those parameters. So just because I found a spiritual dimension that is equally real, it's just in another form that we're not used to. At least it makes sense. You don't have to believe in it, but at least it makes sense, as opposed to the nihilistic world that you're running from and acting like.
Well, what changed my life was when the guy said, why don't you shoot for agnosticism? And I said, what's that? You know, you don't know. Open your mind a crack that you might be wrong.
Yeah.
In your atheism for me was just a convenience, but it led to nihilism. And I didn't even know what it was called. I was years later, I heard Ravi Zacharias talk about nihilism, and I looked it up and I told Tammy, that was me. You know, it was like, that was the rebel. I was like, holy cow. But that was, I like to say, I lived out the logical conclusion of my beliefs. It just became naturally, meaningless, pointless. And that was the most darkest and despairing part of my life, was I had all of these things in my life that should have been meaningful. I had a wife, I had beautiful children, healthy children. I had a job I loved. All that stuff was meaningful, but it meant nothing.
Yeah.
Because I would go to the logical thing. What if they get T-boned at a red light?
Yeah.
Then my meaning is gone because the wife and kids.
And I can't fix it. I can't control it. Right. I can't stop it.
Absolutely.
So now I'm really in despair,
right?
Because like I can't even hold on and defend the very thing that gives me purpose. So it's miserable.
Right. Well, that was it. So I was able to at least live it. Unfortunately, there's so many you know, my kids have walked away from the faith. If you had my oldest now, this is the most frightened I've been. I thought they just got apathetic about it. But they believed in the end, because when Aaron went to Iraq and life got hard, he wrote home and said, send me a Bible. So I said to Tammy, at least we know where he turns when life gets hard, you know, to explain some of this or get through it. And, you know, prayer does bring peace. Prayer does bring calm. Prayer does bring, you know, and maybe not the answers that you like, but it does bring answers, or at least patience to wait for the answers. Those are the gifts of a belief.
Well, it gives you an option,
having
at
a
least.
Belief system.
There's no option in nihilism. It gives you an option
right.
to consider that at least there's hope, there's a light here. Because I got nothing here.
Right. And now he's at a point where he's going to college and he's now moved above us intellectually. And that's basically what he said. And the funniest thing, we were eating dinner. We were at dinner and my daughter-in-law, who is an atheist, says to Tammy, do you guys believe the earth is flat? And Tammy laughed, thinking, you know, and then she looked at her and went, that's a serious question. Yeah. You actually think, well, with the other stuff you believe, you know, the Jesus and Trump and all that. And Tammy, I had to grab her leg. I just said, you know, Angela, those photographs from space, pretty convincing it's an orb.
Yeah, right.
Pretty convincing.
Well, listen, you know, it's a cult. It's the original cult, I believe, is atheism. Throughout human history, people have always believed in God or gods for the most part, from the most simplistic of the human experience to where we are now, where we're the most sophisticated. We've never stopped believing in God. So the atheists are on the outside. You're the aberration. You're the ones that chose to not see what the rest of us see, and then choose to say, and I'm the one with the insight.
Well, did you ever hear the Malcolm Muggeridge quote? I love it. We've educated ourselves into imbecility. You know, and that's my line. I always just say, you have to be a college professor to come up with that. Yeah. You know, you really do. You have to be extremely educated to put those dots together the way they have.
I mean,
but then again, the revelation that you get when you finally commit your life to Christ. And then you realize all this time I wanted something explained to me that would connect the dots that I would know beyond a reasonable doubt. And then you find, I just finally I couldn't deny it anymore. I mean, I couldn't.
Yeah.
So I just said, all right, I'm yours. I don't even know what that means. I wasn't raised in a church. I have no clue what I'm getting into, but I said, I can tell you this, I had 40 years of a life without you.
Yeah.
To contrast, I said, okay, I'm yours. And I told Tammy that when she looked at me, because she was abused by Christians, you know, and she said, what does this mean? You know, I go, I don't know, I'm to love you as Jesus loved the church. And you have to dig deep inside you to tell me how that's a bad thing for you and the kids. And basically it was, okay, I'll see. And it was literally like 2 weeks. She just goes, holy, you know, I want to come to church with you. I want to. So that transformation, which is what is fascinating to me. I love testimonials of, you know, we just interviewed Ben Fuller on our podcast, and Ben's stories you got to get him on your podcast. Just came here to be a country star, you know, big boozer, big whatever, you know, on Broadway. And then he was from Vermont. So somebody from Vermont in his neighborhood he's from Vermont. They invite him to dinner one night. And anyway, they pray at dinner, and then they say, hey, we're going to church tomorrow. Would you join us? And he says, you know, I was raised, if somebody does something nice for you, they fed me. Okay, I'll go, you know. And he walks into the church of the city and he hears the music. And he said, Jeff, I felt that my feet were lifted off the ground. I stopped dead in that aisle, and I stood there for, I don't know, minutes and minutes. I don't even know where my hosts went. That was it. That was the revelation that was a road to Damascus conversion. I didn't have that, but watching what he's doing now with his life 5 years into this, that's transformative. You can't deny that. You know, you can argue all of the points that you want to argue. You can't take that from me. I know what I was. You know, it's the blind man. You know, I don't know. You know, did they do dark magic? Yeah. I don't know. Did they do rub mud in your eye? I don't know. All I know is I couldn't see, and now I can. Yeah. That's it.
It's so beautiful.
That's my testimony. And it is to watch that and then work its way out in the form of taking care of your wife. I'm still working on being a husband. Still am. And I'm ready to go to an intensive therapy to get maybe to the next layer of what that looks like the last whatever years we have on this earth. But I want it for her. That on my best day before Christ, it was like, you're in the way, you know, just get out of here. I'm watching a movie. Please go to another room. You know, I mean, I was a terrible man, but didn't know I was. Yeah. Because I knew what I knew, you know? Yeah. And then all of a sudden and it's like people think, okay, now the world looks at us and wants to judge us based on what we believe is the finished product, which is Christ, you know? And we're here going, no, work in progress, you know, cut me a little slack.
But isn't it interesting, Jeff, that if in the secular world, if in psychology, counseling, whatever, the whole goal is to get you to love yourself and you're good, you're really good.
You can affirm yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, right. I can affirm myself. Right. I'm good.
But it sounds, well, that makes sense.
It does.
Why would you go around saying I suck and think that that's going to help?
Well, communism looks good on paper. We'll all have the same amount of stuff.
It's just never been done right.
Right, exactly.
But here's the thing, Jeff. It sounds counterintuitive. If somebody is struggling in their life and you go to them and say, when you reach the end of yourself and realize you're nothing, you are a wretch.
You're carbon.
Which would make you feel like, well, then I might as well off myself because I've reached the bottom. And you say, you're not going to believe what I'm about to say. When you understand what you really are, and it's not pretty.
Right.
And God says, come on in, son.
Yeah, now you're ready.
I do the work. That change is the opposite from the secular world's version of you're already good. Right. We're just trying to tweak some things. And God says, you're miserable. And son, I've done the work for you. When you grasp that, there's nothing like it. There's no religion that nobody gets Jesus. we got Jesus. He is the game changer.
Right.
He's the one of a kind. No
Well,
other
and the
religion.
Bible, which leads, everything leads to that moment on the cross. We're studying the Old Testament now, and I've never really been deep into the Old Testament. I can't get past the begats and the whatevers. But we got a guy teaching, we were on Genesis last night, and you realize, I leaned over to Tammy and I go, if I was to write a book of fiction, none of these people would be
No.
and it's all about rebellion, and it's all about
Well,
I'll do it. I'll do it my way. I got it my way. The lies and the deceit and the and still God is in there going, Abraham, I'm gonna make you, all these people that come from you.
Yeah.
We're gonna grow this.
But
thing.
that is one of another techniques to at least add to the weight of the value of this book, that it is in fact so inspired. Because if you're writing a book to convince people to join your club,
right,
you wouldn't give the flaws.
Not at all.
He killed Goliath. He was 15.
Yeah.
Guy was 9 foot. Cut his head off. This is what it means to be one of us. And then he defeats you. You don't say, meanwhile,
right,
he's voyeuristically checking out and getting, bringing her over, having sex, killing her. It's like,
right.
Can we edit that out?
Right.
Hey, let's just not use that. Let's not say the Jews are the chosen people and then spend the rest of the book telling how bad Jews are at being God followers.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense unless they're saying this is God's stuck, Jeff. He's going, you're all I got to work with.
Right.
What do you want me to do?
Well, that was when I first got into the Bible. I was not a believer. I was seeking, and Ecclesiastes and Job are my two favorite books. And I read Job.
Wow. Because you want an uplift.
I know.
Holy
and it's so funny when you read Job. I read,
Sheesh.
This is the way I saw it. God and Satan sitting at a Starbucks having a cup of coffee, and Satan goes, you lose. Look at them. They're all lowlifes. Every last one of them, he goes, I got one. Who? Job. Well, of course you do. Look at what you've given him. And he says, well, you can say, and then the pinnacle of the whole relationship is when his wife goes, are you still worshiping that God?
Right.
Curse him and die. And I could see my wife going, I got the sores, I got the sackcloth, I got, I'm covered in ash.
You're so good, Lord.
You're so good, Lord.
What is wrong?
And then you got the 4 friends telling you, man, this is what you did. This is what you did. Completely off base.
Has nowhere to turn.
I know. I would read that and I would just laugh. I go, man, there's a big difference between the field hands coming in and telling you, hey, your cow's got hoof and mouth, and hey, there's fireballs coming out of the sky, roasting it on the hoof, man.
And while they were still speaking, the next group, by the way, your kids are gone too. Did I mention, that land you had? Gone.
So
what is
it leads me to believe that for whatever reason, God allows this fallen world to be fallen. And that goes back to Genesis 1, where, had you not eaten, had you not disobeyed me, we wouldn't have what we have. So we have it, but he allows it. And doesn't mean, but he also allows you, no matter how bad it gets, you can still handle it. And he knew Job could handle it, and he knew it. And in the end, when he said, I got a few questions for you now, I've had enough.
Yeah.
I've had enough of your whining and stuff. So I got a few questions for you. Where were you? Where were you? Where were you? And that's when the book hit me. And then what broke me and it's funny because I read years later, but it was, I was just listening to random tapes. And then I got to Genesis 1, in the beginning, God. And that was the revelation for me. That's when I knew in here that there was a God. And I fell on my face in fear. I mean, I called my buddy up and all that, but I think that that book has been dismissed by so many churches. And if
Job,
I have a mission,
Job?
No, the whole book, the whole Bible.
Oh, I get you.
And I go back to Diane Cannon. I think we talked about this in our podcast, but on the Tonight Show years ago, I'm sitting there drinking vodka, watching the Tonight Show, and he goes, "You do Bible study at your house?" She goes, "Yeah, but we don't talk about Jesus. It upsets people." And even Carson, because he's a Midwestern guy, probably grew up, certainly around the church, goes, well, "Isn't that the?"
Doesn't he show up somewhere in the midst
isn't
of
that kind of important?
Well,
but that's a lot of churches that we don't want to really push the Bible because it upsets people. And the church I go to, yeah, they do it. They have people walk out, if not every Sunday, certainly Sundays.
And that's good.
It is. It is. It's like he said, Matt Chandler, one of my favorite pastors down in Texas, I heard him say under his breath one day, he goes, look, man, we're really overcrowded. And if you're here just because it's a cultural thing to do in Dallas on Sunday, there are a lot of churches would love to have you. We're here to grow you, and we're here to teach you. And then under his breath, he goes, you resource sucking leeches.
Wow.
My kind of church.
Okay, but isn't that interesting? Because that is comedy.
Right.
That's what I'm getting at. That is clearly inappropriate.
Right.
But that's the beauty of the technique
right.
of use of words to make a point, like Jesus did.
Right.
You generation of vipers. Seems a little rough.
Right.
Seems
that's
a little rough.
To explain the literal translation. Did he actually believe they were vipers? I mean, there is some metaphors in the Bible to make a point.
But I even made a joke about that. I said, they're your sons of snakes, right? Your generation of vipers, sons of snakes. I said, we have a similar term we use, sons of dogs. I didn't say the word, even though the word is technically the word bitch is actually what they call.
Well, that's what Tammy. That was so funny when we started with the Gaithers.
Yeah,
because Tammy was showing dogs.
Yeah,
and she says, "Yeah, we have a bitch at home, and we have little giggles and stuff." And she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, but that's what they're called."
Yeah, right.
And I went on one night and I said, we're all dirtbags. From dust you came, to dust you return. So when I use the term dirtbag, I mean that biblically.
But words, Jeff, words. In the beginning was the Word.
Right.
And the Word was.
Well, that's a lot of apologetic argument. Is said that you should start at John 1. In the beginning was the Word, and it was the spoken to existence.
But the power of words.
Right.
That's why they fear comics.
Right.
Because we, at least historically, could get away with murder. We were allowed to say the unsayable because we were given permission. We were the jester. We had a role to play. It wasn't us just arbitrarily deciding, I'm just going to see how many people I can tick off. It was like we were destined to hold the mirror up. Now, everybody can say that. It sounds very therapeutic or whatever. But I think our role matters. I think if somebody in the midst of it all can say, you're no better than me, King.
Right.
You're no better than me.
Oh, the jester.
Then it's
important.
like, we're kind of it's like when you said the Bible talks about, the rich are
so the First Amendment is the most important. I mean,
clearly.
Yeah.
It's the barometer.
And why
freedom.
The Second Amendment is important, because when they turn the guns on you for making fun of the king, at least you have some way to defend yourself.
The barometer for a culture's freedom is speech.
Yeah.
That will tell you where they're at. What let's put it to you like this. So this is kind of what I was getting at earlier. The interesting thing about being a comic as a Christian, it frustrates me, honestly, because I started out in the clubs like you did. Then I went into the churches, and that became my thing because God was calling me to ministry to the church.
Yeah, I've always felt that for
I didn't know that. I didn't.
Right.
I wanted to throw him a bone, but don't call me a minister. Don't call me
that was when somebody handed me a $20 check and said, "Here's for your ministry." I went, I'm a comic.
That bad?
I'm a comic.
But I didn't know that was where God was going to send me, and I fall in now. I have no option. I tell people, you wake up in the beach and whale vomit enough times, you go, maybe I should head to Nineveh. So because that's what happens when you're a believer, you will have a specific call that if you don't get to, it'll hurt, and you'll have your dark night of the soul. We talked this on your podcast, but the thing I did notice is this. So years later, once I had really established myself in the evangelical world as a stand-up, and I was always clean, even when I was in clubs. I was a Christian the whole time, so I didn't do sex jokes. I had my perimeters that I created for myself, but it had nothing to do with whether I cared what they did.
Right.
It was me. I don't want to talk like that. So that's my editing was for my sake, not for theirs. my job is to make them laugh, and I don't give a crap what it takes.
Yeah, I used to love the title. What did you call yourself? The Rebel Without a Curse.
Rebel Without a Curse. That was my original.
I
Very
like
few
that.
people have seen that one.
Yeah.
But then suddenly some scenarios happened where I got to go back into a club during Corona. That was some of the only places you could go, right? That were doing their thing, and or Performance Arts Center, very hard to get into because they're all run by leftists. It's like, dang it.
Yeah, tell Nick DiPaolo.
Yeah. And I just did one in West Virginia. I should turn you on to it because I get the same thing. The guy called me and said, I probably don't agree with anything you do, but I know my area.
Yeah.
And they're going to like you.
Right.
So,
well, that's how an adult handles
but they
like
don't anymore. I was under the delusion that Hollywood only cared about the green, and they don't. They'll be happy to lose money as
the old Hollywood did.
Yeah, but as long as the agenda is propagated, I don't care if we lose money. Clearly, because Disney's proven that. But but here's the thing I wanted to say to you. When I went into the clubs, and it was weird in a way because it's not the same. I remember when I first started going into churches, it's like, oh, good, no smoking. Because when we started, you could smoke, which I didn't mind it. It's just, you couldn't breathe. Right. Some of those clubs, it was just, nobody was drunk. Nobody was there to, I'll show you, I'm going to heckle you because they're pretty nice.
Well, the
people.
church for me was 45 minutes of, they're used to having someone use metaphors, and they're used to someone speaking for 45 minutes without interrupting.
And you don't even have to be funny. So if you happen to throw that in, oh, this is really fun.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing, Jeff. The one thing that was interesting about getting back on stage in a club, and some of the folks came to see me, but a lot of them were just like they used to do. I just want to go to the comedy club. I hope the guy's funny. Is there was a freedom that I missed.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I can say anything here, and I don't have to stop for 1 second. Is that going to be perceived wrong? Is this going to be biblical? Now, am I planning on doing unbiblical things? No. Am I planning on suddenly cursing? No, I didn't do it anyways. But there was a freedom of speech that you don't get in church. You don't get in church.
Again, you're the self-editing. And when I started in the churches, again, I'm coming out of casinos and nightclubs.
Yeah.
So my perception was, I'm pulling it all back. Mark Lowry told me something interesting. He said, you need to find a line and kick it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and every now and then you'll miss the line, step over it. Now, he had Gaither to pull him back when he was inappropriate. I just gradually started pushing it. And I'm at a point now where if you hire me and I blindside you with what I do, because I don't change what I do. From the clubs to the church, then that's on you for not doing your homework. Yeah. And again, Lenny's gotten calls. We just don't think he's right for our church, the way he talks about things, and that's fine. I mean, I could call him and say, look, man, you tell me what you don't like, I'll take it out, you know. But then again, now you're getting into the point where I'm trying to please people at the expense of who I am. So I'm far enough down the road. I draw enough of them. And the problem I have drawing bigger crowds is half my audience won't go to a club. Right. The other half won't go to a church.
No, I'm in the same boat.
So I'm kind of like stuck in this. But
I've said this for many years. And the couple of times I brought it up to especially believers, they're all like, oh, that's it. Is that Christians in the U.S., and I always reference us only. This is my world. I don't know what they're doing in Nigeria, but here they are trained to judge content instead of context.
Right.
And to me, the magic of life is context.
I think the whole
that's the magic of free speech. Right. That's the magic of having something intriguing and important to say is the context. And that's why comedy as an art form is not so much even having something interesting to discuss or relatable, which is where most comedy works, is because, oh, I've thought that, or that's happened to me. That's the biggest thing you'll hear. Oh, I thought that, right? So we're good at picking up on what everybody else is figuring out, throwing it back, and they go, yes, he's right, boy. But we also, it's like in some ways comedy is designed to, even if it's secular, convict you, like to cause you to have to reevaluate things or not take things for granted or not get so stuck in a self-imposed decorum that we lose. Great artists couldn't be great artists if they were given rules. If Picasso was said, love your painting, but don't, what's that?
All the jagged edges, why would you put that in there? You should have more rounding.
Right, right. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the eyes are on two sides of the face. Did you not know that they weren't on?
Well, it's interesting because I always use the line, in interviews where they talk about, I said that some of the best comedy that ever came out was in the 70s because it was coming out of the 60s mores. There was a cultural push. They were jailing Lenny Bruce. They were jailing people who spoke publicly in a club, in a private building. And America doesn't like that. Mm-hmm. They didn't like it. So the 70s, when they finally busted out, there was some great comedy. And I think some really great comedy is going to come out of all of this woke cancel culture. Yeah. I think that's the next, because that's as close to the Inquisition as we've gotten in America.
Well, my advantage, though, when I started really doing the bulk of my career in the churches, and as you know, I was doing the conservative Christian anti-PC thing.
Right. Oh, you were way ahead of
before.
Well, when I called you, I think I told you when I did the America I grew up in, I said, you were way ahead of me on this. You talked about the wagon train, and you didn't hear the kids going, "Where are we going to get to that?"
Yeah, there was no there yet.
Yeah, there was no there.
But and that's not even to brag. It's just saying I felt like for me, that's where comedy can be so helpful.
Right. We should, when they muzzle us, then it's over.
Well, there's nowhere left. Then there's nowhere left to do, because we were given permission to say anything.
Right.
And I believe in free speech. I'm a Christ follower.
Which is why I think stand-up comedy is a blue-collar, bourgeois art form. Because the masses, they want to poke at the elites. They do. And the problem is now because of social media, now people they think they're in the elite class because they follow them on Instagram. And I keep screaming, they don't care about you. They're using you to club people that in our line of work, like if you go after, just to throw one out there, AOC, her follower, or Taylor Swift. I mean, that's the big one. If you make fun of Taylor Swift, then her Swifties come after you in mass, and it can make your life miserable, I guess. I don't know. I don't have any desire to make fun of her at all.
Yeah.
I did write her a tweet. She came out with some political statements, and I wrote her, I said, for someone who writes such original songs to write this kind of cliche political speech it's beneath you. Come up with something original, And anyway, she never contacted.
Seriously,
seriously.
I'm curious. She's
I
not
think it got lost.
I
think it got lost into the other 700 million who said, "Man, that's so brilliant."
Yeah, God, where else can I worship you somewhere somehow? Can you if your shadow could just pass over me? That's all I'm looking for. I've got a tumor, but
Speaking of that, it's not that. It's just they found another sighting of the Mother Mary and like a potato chip.
Thank God! I thought you were going to say, "You need to let people know I've got a tumor."
Crap. But I thought there were people with tumors going to the potato chip, hoping.
Okay, well.
Hey, man, if it works mentally, because you can mentally heal yourself. True. I believe that God gave us the ability to do that.
But I think what I was curious about was if you were to put comedy in styles, you have the safe guys, you have the Brian Regans, and you have the Nate Bargatze's now, and we have
I'm safe,
and you. So you did the smart thing. You really did. You said, I just want to be funny for everybody. I'm not trying to make a statement.
Right.
I just want people to have some fun. That's a wonderful thing. I believe that comedy allows humans to do something nobody else, animals don't do, experience laughter and joy. It's something that they don't have. It's a beautiful gift God gives to us. Jeff, I couldn't. I
Right.
had something I felt like I have to say this, and
You
it
have to
didn't
get
make
it
any
out.
sense.
Yeah.
It's like, Brad, you're stupid. You don't have to say that. Just be funny. They laugh.
Right.
So I guess you're doing this right.
Right.
And I was compelled, and it was only many years later as I was doing Promise Keepers and all these ministers where
Right.
people would say, you are called this. I said, no, what? No, I'm
Yeah.
not. That it was the understanding that when you can't not say something, that's an anointing. That's a calling.
Right.
I have a purpose for you, Brad.
And you pay the price for
Oh,
it. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, I do. I do. But I'm satisfied because I'm where I belong.
Right.
I'm doing what I'm called to do,
Right.
and it's enough. And God takes care of me. We are trained to seek the result. And as a believer, what you need to do is seek the calling. Why are you here? Seek that.
Right.
What is my job to, who am I supposed to speak to? What am I supposed to say? What is my sphere of influence?
Yeah.
Seek that, and then he'll give you the other stuff you need to survive.
Right. Well, it's interesting because we just put the pilot script together for the book I wrote, and we're going to film it based in the 90s. And that was a decision that I wanted. And then initially the producer came in and said, it'll cost too much. And then we got a director involved, and he said, I just did a period piece from the 80s, and it raised the budget 5%. Wasn't much. And what I liked about the 90s was we can examine, remember the conversations we had about political correctness. I remember that. And I remember doing the drunk driving routine. It was one of my strongest routines. Kills. And all of a sudden, it just got a little less and a little less and a little less. And it was because of Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. All of a sudden, culturally, making light of drunk driving wasn't cool. And I let the audience decide. I didn't just keep hammering the story down if it wasn't going to get the laughs it got or whatever. So I wanted the conversations backstage. We're going to be doing a lot of filming at Zanies and stuff with the comedy part of this. And we'll have people like you in. We'll have people, younger guys.
Is this a documentary?
No, it's a series. And yeah, we're getting close. Hopefully, sometime this fall
I checked my phone numerous times. Have not been asked for the role that you had prepared for me, and I need to prepare. It'll
be we're that's down the line. We're just trying now. We had a lead cast, and he just dropped out. And
playing you?
No, I'm playing my father. The lead playing me.
Interesting.
Yeah, oddly, Hollywood couldn't take 30 years off this face. So I get to play my father. And I told the comic we're looking at now, I'm not going to mention his name because he isn't signed yet. I said, the beauty is I get to saddle you with all the baggage I got saddled with in real time.
Is he going to do your material?
No, that's why we wanted a stand-up comic that can act. That was one of the first things we discussed. Do we want an actor to do the stand-up, or do we want a stand-up comedy that can do? So that was what was interesting, was sitting down, and we're not worried about the material.
You need a comic that can act.
Yeah, and
Trust
that's it.
me.
So they can
I've seen when they tried to turn.
Well, look at Dustin Hoffman did a relatively decent job being Lenny Bruce, but it's still, you look at it, and then Michael J. Fox who did a stand-up comedy movie.
Well, the one that I remember was Tom Hanks and Sally Field.
That
and
was
it's
it.
like, no. It has to be a comic
that has his own rhythm, his own cadence, and we're not going to change his voice.
Most comics can act. There's something about that thing.
Well, the guy we're looking at now, we have a role for a black comic, of Jimmy, and I just worked with a young guy in New York. He opened for me. And I said, do you act? He goes, never have. And I go, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give him your name, and then we'll give you sides you can read. But I said, I'm telling you, if you just do what you did up there and be who you are, you know, because it's an important role in that he is Jeff's roommate, and he doesn't have the chops that Jeff has, but he has the plan. He has a focus, and he doesn't drink. He doesn't, he knows where he wants to go, and It's based on Arsenio Hall. I started with Arsenio,
Mm.
and Arsenio always had a plan.
Mm.
He hired an entertainment lawyer. I go, well, you got a lawyer, you know, you don't even have a career. And he goes, they have clients.
Mm.
And sure enough, a month later, he was at Carnegie Hall opening for Nancy Wilson.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was Nancy's lawyer.
What is the favorite joke you've ever written?
The newest one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
For real, or are you just making
for
a
real
commentary about, well, I'm done with the
I love the OJ line, OJ's driveway. That's what I wrote.
So tell me the joke. Just speak the joke.
Well, that was,
you don't have to try to deliver it. But
okay. Well, it's, I read where they won't grade English papers in public school is red ink because apparently the sight of red ink on a piece of paper is too traumatic for little Joey. And I go, really? I don't know about you geniuses, but my English papers came back looking like OJ's driveway.
That's a great line.
It is. And then my father would look at my paper and go, holy cow, this is your native tongue, you moron. You know? So that's the joke. And it's interesting. I did it on Dry Bar, which is probably the narrowest parameters that you can put on the internet. And it was perfect for me because I was already working within those parameters. Mm-hmm. But I just did a joke on there. I don't even know if they'll keep it in, but I love it. It's a young couple comes to me after a show at a church, and they said, "Sir, we need to talk to you." And I go, "Yeah." And they go, "You keep talking about learning how to argue in your marriages and how to fight fair. And we've been married 7 years, and we've never had an argument, right?" He goes, So I go, all right, maybe I'm making that up. But anyway, it descends into this. The point I was making was, all right, ladies, let's say you marry a guy who likes to break wind on the way to the bathroom every morning. He thinks it's the funniest thing he could do. You think it's disrespectful, but you in your naivete as a wife said, he'll outgrow it. You know, those early parts, he'll outgrow it. Obviously, at some point, this won't be funny to him. Yeah. Well, now you're 7 years in. And he's one fart from you killing him. Right, you're laying there looking at him. Go ahead, let it rip tomorrow, pal. I got something. So anyway, it turns out she chainsaws him. She shoots him, to the point where she's clicking the gun. You pig. He's out at the curb in a hefty bag, and of course, you're on Dateline explaining to the world why you had to do what you had to do. And then anyway, I do the whole chainsaw thing, the gun thing, and I look at the audience and I go, a little harsh for Dry Bar. Yeah. I said, I got an email on that one. The pastor sent me. He said, the show was funny, but that chainsaw thing scared the little ones.
Okay, but that's important. That I don't want to just let this go, because that's what we normally do. We'll talk about these things and not dig in. This is what I was curious about when it comes to Christians. I've had lots of clips on YouTube like you have, and people respond, they talk about it, they get on that thread. And one of the things that happens all the time, because I do have some references to biblical ideas or Adam and Eve, whatever it is. And somebody said, well, the Bible really doesn't teach that. It teaches it. And I'm thinking, I was doing stand-up comedy. Right. Obviously, this isn't we're not trying to get a degree in theology.
Well, I made up a third kid for 5 years.
Yeah, right.
I had 2 videos with the three kids, and then I put out a third video with 2 kids. People are writing me, did the baby die? Yeah. Should we pray for you? It's not a documentary. No, but it was a great joke.
I hope you use that story too, that they wrote in, did the baby die? Because that's hysterical. You need to bring that up. But okay, so help me here. I have a real low tolerance for the superficiality of Christians in this country. Just to not tell, I'm not a pastor, I'm not teaching at a seminar. It's a joke, and I'm taking some license. Right. Because I'm a comic, and I'm just having some fun. I have a joke, God's a guy, and here's why we know God's a guy, because blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I used to call him the big guy.
Okay.
And I got emails and texts on that, I had one guy write me about taking the Lord's name in vain, because I forget what it was, but I wrote him back. I said, I normally don't reply to these. I get too many, and fortunately not a lot of negative ones, but I comment on the negative ones. One guy accused me of using again.
Mm.
He said, I know addicts and Jeff's using again.
Yeah.
So I wrote him back and I said, I can assure you I'm not. But then I started looking at the videos and I was doing this all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I was up there doing, like 25 times in a show. I'm doing that. I could see why you'd think that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I wrote the guy back about the God thing. And I wrote, some people in some cultures think that it's blasphemous to write out the word G-O-D. And I put the underline where the O was. Actually write out the word. I said, I think I'm okay with my Lord and Savior on this one, And
but do you think that Christians shouldn't even engage in trying to educate? Or I think there's a lot of people that aren't looking to be, I guess, walk through your perspective and give me a new insight, and hey, let's have a wonderful dialogue. And it's not like the rabbis trying to, they're not looking for answers. They feel the need to just comment and leave it there.
Yeah, I guess that's why I don't read them. I honestly, I don't. I have somebody that handles all that, and periodically Tammy used to read them. And again, I don't get that many, again, I'm a safe, plus I'm a known entity. Mm. So if you're going to my thing, it's because you saw something on Instagram that intrigued you. Mm. I had one woman write me, I remember it was very funny. I had just did a show with Sean Hannity and Ann Coulter. So I put the pictures, this was early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And I like Hannity and I like Coulter. I used to read her column all the time, So I was thrilled to get a picture with them and post it. So this woman writes me, I heard you on XM radio, really liked what you did, went to your website, did not know you were a right-wing freak. Mm. And I'm no longer a fan. And anyway, I wrote her back and I said, yours intrigued me in the sense that, one, I didn't know I was a right-wing freak either. Mm. I said, those people hired me to do what you heard on XM radio. I did it. The check cleared. They were nothing but kind and gracious. I would do the same for left-wing freaks, but they never seemed to ask. Mm-hmm. Never heard back from her. I kind of hoping that would start a dialogue of like, hey man, that seems like a pragmatic answer, middle of the road, but it isn't. They're not looking to have their mind changed or their heart changed.
When it's a declarative statement,
that's it.
They're not looking for.
And Tammy said that because I used to comment, and then it would start this whole. And she says, "You understand? There's trolls out there."
Yeah.
So the minute you comment, but now I realize my fans back me up. Oh, lighten up.
Yeah, I get that too.
Get over it. My gosh, it's a joke. The biggest one that got me was when Facebook back, probably it was before 2010. Should Christian comedians work nightclubs? I was shocked at how many Christian comics said no. Mm. What are you talking about? Mm. I remember Matt Berry. I don't know if you know who he is, but Matt was a comic in the 80s and decided he was going to go to seminary school and become a preacher, pastor. And then Roseanne called him and asked him to come to Hollywood to write for her. And he went to his, the head of his college, seminary school. I don't know what to do. And he goes, you're called to be salt. There's no place that needs salt more than Hollywood. And if it doesn't work out, we're always here. Mm. Anyway, he went on to write with Roseanne. He went on to write with Ellen. He went on to write with Brett Butler. And he said that when he was show running Reba's show, he said that Reba was the payback for putting up with, all the other ones. But Matt is a kind, gentle, Bible-believing Christian and a damn good writer. And anyway, I've always kind of looked at that as that I'll go to the nightclubs when I can draw an audience. So for 20 years, I didn't work a nightclub. Mm-hmm. But now because of Dry Bar, I can bring people in. Yeah. And because of my book, I can take 5-10 minutes at the end. Actually, I take longer now. At 50 minutes in my show, I look at the clock and then I do the book. I stand up and go, I got a book. It's about recovery, blah, blah, blah. And, and I made some funny stories about it. where Tammy read the first 2 chapters, came out crying. I can't read anymore. We were horrible people. You know? Well, finish the book. We turned out okay.
Yeah, right.
You know, come on.
It's funny that you say that, though, because, and this is kind of what I started this whole conversation with, how comics think. We're just, we get through life with humor. We survive with humor. We get through pain with humor sometimes.
Absolutely.
And
it is a total defense mechanism.
Yes. Well, so
Yeah.
you're gonna love this. So I see. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what. After my father called my wife a white trash C word,
Yeah.
my first response was, "Well, welcome to the family. He only talks to people he loves like that." She goes, "Not funny, Jeff.
Right.
Not funny." I go, just trying to lighten up the.
But look at the
Yeah.
magic
Yeah.
of what words with humor can do to assuage a situation.
Right.
I mean, seriously, that's
Well, again, I called my father and I said, "You think he was over the top?" And he said, "She was late for dinner." I go, "That's not my question.
all right.
My question was, did the response fit the crime?"
Yeah.
She was late for dinner. And I said, "Well, why didn't you just empty your 45 in her chest?
Right.
You know, 8 slugs." And, well, that's excessive. And I go, "There you go.
Yeah.
That's my point."
Yeah.
What you said to her, and I hope it was worth the daughter-in-law, because as far as I'm concerned, she doesn't have to speak to you the rest of her life. I have to, because you're my father.
Yes.
You know?
I met your father, by the way.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, he came out to one of the
The Apostle shows. Yeah, he was a little grumpy, you know.
No, he was. Well, listen. After you had discussed your challenges with him over the years, I was a little bit. Gee, I wonder what I'm gonna. You know, and it's probably a guy in pain who grew up in pain and didn't know where to.
Oh, I think he was abused at church.
Okay.
And that was my question to the pastor the other day. Were people who have been severely abused by Christians who turn their back on the entire faith?
Yeah.
Does Jesus understand that when they die and their soul is required? You know, I'm trying to backdoor my father into heaven, you know, and the pastor said, "I think that's a legitimate question, and that's a Jesus question, and I'm not Jesus." So,
yeah. Well, you know, and we don't know the answer, and we hope that there is some. I believe in a God that isn't looking to put people in hell; He's looking to get us out.
absolutely,
So if there's
and
any
he's given us
loopholes, He's going to give them to
right.
us.
He's given us 1,000 ways to.
But I came across. I don't know if it was a text. I don't. It wouldn't have been text, but I mean, maybe a X or Twitter thing, whatever you call them nowadays, Facebook. I don't. But it was something from you.
We sound old.
It was something from you. Yeah. Maybe just, and maybe it's not. Maybe I'm putting all these pieces together. But it was something to the effect of, you know, I'm excited today. I'm celebrating 40 years of sobriety or whatever.
Yep.
It's huge, long.
38 years.
38 years. So let's just say that. I'm celebrating 38, which most people are,
Right.
And my thought was, Jeff, how long do you get to milk this I've been sober thing
Every year?
Like, for God's sake, I get it. But here's my point, Jeff. I'm grateful for you. But once it's not even a temptation anymore. I don't think you get to brag about it.
I think you do, though. But listen to the reason
but
why.
This is, but I'm finding a joke is what I'm getting at. Is how long do these people?
Well, I remember you saying that. Well, I
thing?
remember you saying that when we were out with the apostles. Dang, I just never had. You know,
oh well, that's my joke about I didn't have a good
I
didn't have a good testimony.
Well, when my buddy
like
produced,
only I'd beaten my babies. Come on.
Yeah, my buddy produced the special on Love Song from the Jesus Revolution.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I did a documentary, three-part, fascinating documentary. You can catch it on Amazon, September 19th. Anyway, he wanted me to do a promo. And I said, you know, when this whole Jesus Revolution hit, I was in the process of building a really good testimony.
Yeah.
I missed the entire revolution.
Right.
So it's nice to have revolutions that we all don't have to participate in, you know.
But that was a really hard time in your life. I mean, that was some really,
well, absolutely.
Really
and also
and
the
a comic
reason
will find funny in that is what I'm getting
but
at.
for the non-alcoholic who doesn't understand, when I got in those rooms, it was important for me to see and hear 10 years, 5 years, 8 years, a year, 6 months. They celebrate those as a testimonial to that you can get here. I mean, when they told me you're going to thank God for your alcoholism I laughed. I said, there's no way. I'm not happy about this. I'm only here because, I'd kill somebody or I'll kill myself. But now I don't necessarily verbalize, thank you, Lord, for my alcoholism, but I have in the past said, thank you for this. And I have a problem with that. This might cause a maelstrom, but I have a problem with the whole disease thing. Everything's a disease now. I'm sick. So
you don't think alcoholism is a disease?
I don't think it is. I just think that I have a predisposition to be allergic to, I'm allergic to methyl alcohol. I mean, when I drink it, I wind up next to a dumpster in my own piss. So that's a problem, but no, I don't like the idea that, see, we used to be sinful, but then pop culture,
you're a drunk.
Pop culture came in and said, well, we don't like that word, so you're sick.
Yeah. Plus, we don't want you to feel bad about killing yourself.
Well, that's
Instead
it.
Of saying, look, I'm trying to give you some tough love
I can tell you this, if you have an alcoholic in your life, screaming at him and berating him is not going to get him to quit drinking. We already do that.
Probably drive him to the
We
bar.
already do that.
Yeah.
We already do that. So I think the disease part helped me, like the non-committal God part when I got into AA. When they said, find something as a higher power. Well, my intellect wouldn't allow me to get into that too long. I was going, okay, if I'm making up a deity that makes me delusional, so, okay, God exists or he doesn't, but I'm not going to buy into this fake bumper sticker thing. So that led me to at least seek God's existence. And again, if I walked into those rooms 38 years ago and they said, you need Jesus, I'd have left. I don't need this. I don't want it, which is why Bill W. realized, look, the first 5 steps are very Christian. Matter of fact, the guy, Shoemaker, the pastor, helped put them together, which is why they had a split. When Bill W. left the church with his program, he realized he could reach more people outside of the church, which is actually an indictment on the church more so than.
But if you, and this is just kind of a thought experiment without being too legalistic. We believe Jesus is the only way. Like, this is the actual truth, that these other religions might even have some truth in them, because all truth is God's truth. And I think he might use some of those ideas into other things to help people.
Well, especially if I think if you follow him to their logical conclusions, like with the caste system.
Yeah,
when you look at that, and because the West is inundated with this karma thing, and we think it's feel good and fuzzy. So to intellectually sit down with some, or not even intellectually, just say, look, let's follow your belief. So are you allowed to help the poor?
Right.
If that's what you believe.
Right.
And they do it with, I remember, I think it was Phil Donahue, remember him? Yeah, had Rush Limbaugh on. And he kind of backed Limbaugh into a corner, and Limbaugh came out and said, okay, you're absolutely right. If I'm to be consistent with my beliefs, then, and I forget, it was something about abortion. He said, then, yeah, you're right. I do believe that. And it was one of those straw man things that they use, that are rare, again, I don't want to get into this because it causes somebody, and it's too deep of an issue to cover in a minute. But I just remember Limbaugh saying, if you're absolutely right. If I'm to be logically consistent with what I just told you I believe, then you're right. I do believe that.
Believe what?
And it was
probably that should I kill somebody?
It was something about a rape or incest, probably.
Oh,
that's the argument.
Oh yeah.
And then that baby should be brought to term.
Oh yeah.
And but that's the argument they use, because it's an emotional and.
Do you think though that? I mean, you believe in AA, right? You think it's very successful and helpful, clearly. But do you think that there was a watering down by saying, "Oh, whatever because what if the higher powers?"
Well, it's not even that anymore. I mean, you go to New York, the word God isn't even allowed. But it's in all the literature. It's in a matter of fact, in the preamble, they say it's a program of honesty. And it's something about find God and find him now. I mean, that's in the preamble. Find God, find him now. And the reason people are unable to stay sober is because they're unable to be honest with themselves. They lie to themselves. And that was one of the things, one of the biggest turning points of my sobriety was when I was complaining to my sponsor, I can't drink anymore. And all these drunks I'm around at night, they seem to be having good lives and blah, blah. And he sat me down as an adult and said, drink. Who's going to stop you? But at least you're sober enough now to think it all the way through. You almost lost your wife. You almost lost your family, all your career, all your life, you know. So at least, so you don't go in as naive and think, where did all this bad stuff come from? You know, coincidentally, in 38 years, I haven't been arrested. I mean, you know.
But why do the secular world always want to hijack this incredible thing? And,
well, that was it.
Secularize it, and now let's not.
Well, the Oxford.
How is it going to? Is it going to work if God is eliminated?
Not at all.
No,
I don't believe it is.
Well, how could it?
Again, it has. I mean, there are people, but you ask yourself the quality of life. I had a terrible. I'm the reason it's an anonymous program. My first 7 or 8 years in, prior to my relationship with Christ, I was an angry, bitter, jaded, cynical human being. I was a nihilist, but I was sober. But again, it was God. I believe God was grabbing me and going, okay, you believe this. I'll let you run it out to its logical conclusion. Because to me, I described it as it was a spiritual thirst. And I was scooping it with my hands. I was scooping through books and whatever. So I wasn't able to quench the thirst. And so when I finally read the verse in the Bible where Jesus said to the woman at the well, I'm offering you water that you'll never thirst again. That resonated with me because I could not, for years, put a picture to what I was looking for. That's what I was looking for. I wanted something quenched. I couldn't quench myself. And the higher power thing, I don't need the emails. Brad doesn't need the emails. This is just one guy out of millions of people. I would not be here without Alcoholics Anonymous. I would not be here. God gave me, and John Bradshaw said, when history writes about the 20th century, they are going to say the greatest gift to humanity was the 12-step program.
Wow.
Because it allowed the church dropped the ball. Philip Yancey wrote about it in one of his books. He said, I'm standing outside a church in Chicago and a prostitute's walking by. I invite her in and she says, why would I go in there? He said, this is more about the church than it does about the prostitute. It should be a welcoming place. We don't want people smelly in there. And it's true. I don't want to sit next to a street urchin covered in urine. And it's sad, but I'm at least being honest. You know, and again, I was talking to the pastor the other day, and he said, when I was pastor in this church, we had a very large church, and he said, we need to reach out to this is when HIV was running rampant. He said, we need to reach out to the AIDS community and get them in here because we think Jesus can heal these people. And somebody said, where are they going to sit? And he said, next to the other homosexuals we have in our church. And he go, we have homosexuals. He goes, do the numbers. Yeah. Most families have one, so we have 3,000 people here. So yeah, we have a percentage of people here that are gay. And so I think it's more of an indictment on the church that the broken don't feel comfortable. I was told by somebody in AA, maybe a year and a half into sobriety, and I didn't want to go home. I told the guy, I'm going to go home and I'm going to fight with Tammy. I don't want to, but I know me. And I know where I'm at, this anger that was building. He says, well, go sit in a church. And I go, why would I do that? He goes, I'm telling you, they're open. You know, I don't know if they are now because of all the violence that's been committed on them. But anyway, I'm driving home and I see a church. I pull in the parking lot. Sure enough, the door was open. And I go sit in the pews and I'm seeing Jesus on the cross. And again, I'm ignorant. I don't know anything. And I just break down. I just start sobbing. And the words, I'm sorry, were just coming out of me. Sorry. I didn't even know what I was sorry for. Sorry. And went home, didn't have an argument with Tammy. You know, I felt a sense of calm when I left. And I banked that into my mind. I go, maybe there is something to this, at least superficially, to being in a church. And I didn't start going, but probably 2 or 3 years before I made a formal commitment on my knees to accept Christ, I started going to churches on the road, like in Atlantic City and Las Vegas. And I would just Sunday morning wake up and go, yeah, you know, and especially Atlantic City, and I walked into an all black church. I had never seen this and I haven't seen it since. The basket went around 2 or 3 times. You know, he'd look at it and go, this ain't enough. You know? And I'm the only white guy and I'm throwing 20s in there, you know. I'm going, yeah, I'm going to help shore up the thing. But again, I can look at that as the Holy Spirit. I define that as the Holy Spirit working on a broken heart. And I was honest enough to admit that I was broken. Mm-hmm. I was honest enough to raise my hand in those meetings and go, I don't get this. I don't get the higher power. And I'd have people try to explain it to me. And you're right. And it's nice, warm feeling until life happens. Mm-hmm. The death of a child, the cancer, loss of a job, and you're on your knees. And you're looking for some kind of comfort and you're praying and your brain is going, what are you praying to? Yeah. I mean, if you believe as we believe that the enemy of our souls speaks lies to our brains, of course he's going to chirp in your head. That spirit is going to chirp and say, this is useless. What are you doing down here? You know, there's nothing here for you. And the day after I gave my life to Christ, I sat on the end of my bed in a condo, at a comedy condo. My kids were in the other room. I was traveling with them. And I remember sitting there thinking, God, I feel different. And then I went, oh yeah, I gave my life to Jesus the other night. Is that what this feels? And you've heard the term lightness of being. Yeah. If that was the weight of my sin being lifted off my soul. Right. And then in my mind's eye, I saw this valley in front of me. Again, it was clear as a bell in front of me. And that voice that, again, I identify as the Holy Spirit said, I was here, I was here, I was here. I've always been there, been waiting on you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think we realize, and the older I get and the more I've gone through, the sacredness of pain. Yes. How important it is.
Yeah, nobody seeks it. I'm not seeking it. I'm not going to bash my hand with a hammer so I can get closer to God.
But like I said, you know, when I just remember somebody telling me about where the Chinese Christians that get thrown in jail, whatever, and to them that's part of the role of being a believer, and they will say, "Thank you for allowing me to share in your suffering." And I just thought, sharing
the West,
sharing. I could see, help me overcome it, help me get through it, heal me from it, strike down my enemies, somehow show me the way out. Right. We always see pain as an aberration, a punishment. God is angry.
I did some sin,
and it's the honing. We're all in pain and nobody wants to admit it, because here's the thing. It happened to me. I was invited to this place called Operation Restored Warrior, and it was designed for PTSD, but it was invite only for men. And I had a friend who was a former FBI agent and did a lot with Islamic extremism and exposing, I mean, kind of a hardcore guy, but he helped create this retreat. And, by
the way, one of those retreats saved my son's life.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he came back from Iraq pretty jacked up, suicidal.
Apparently, you would not be human if you didn't find yourself in trauma. But he would ask me, "You want to do this thing?" I said, "Well, look, I got to work. I don't know when a gig might come up and all this." But here's the thing, Jeff. It was kind of true, but the truth was, if I go, I know what's waiting for me, and I'm not interested. I can't. I have survived my life walling pain away because I can't endure it. I had to do it. I literally did. I might have even said this in your podcast. I don't remember. But anyways, my parents were divorced and I would go visit one, and that means I left the other one. And then, so you felt guilty about that and you miss them, and we should all be together. And then you leave one, so the scab's being ripped off. It just felt like there's no solace, because what's supposed to be is out of balance, and you felt guilty, and the other one would feel, oh, you're going off to see that. And it's like, I didn't create this world. You did. You divorced. Right. But I'm stuck, and he'll always be my dad, and you'll always be my mom, and you can move on with the partners. I don't get mom too. Right. And it's good.
Right.
So you screwed me up, and and in years later, I understand some of the circumstances as an adult. It wasn't like they did it on purpose, but nevertheless, and I was in pain. I was sitting on a tarmac in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm 12, 13, crying because it's like I'm leaving my mom, going to see me. And Jeff, I said it. I said, I will never feel pain again.
Right.
I can't do that. I'm too young.
Right.
I don't know how to navigate this. And I put a wall up. I didn't know what I was doing.
Absolutely.
I had to survive. I don't know how else to do it. I'm 12.
Right.
And the wall works both ways.
Right.
I don't feel pain, but I don't feel love. I can't get love out because it's stuck inside of me. And so when he talked to me about coming to this thing, I have lived and survived by not breaking that wall down. There ain't no way I'm going there until there comes a moment where the pain finally outweighs the cost of what you're about to reach.
Well, that's what
finally got like this.
Change becomes, because pain is the only motivator. Change comes when the pain to continue as you are is too much. More than the pain of correcting.
That's it.
What you're
that took a long time.
Yeah, I heard it this way. My therapist told me that I said, why am I so angry? And she said, anger is the cover emotion for sadness, because truthfully, you're deeply saddened.
I've heard,
and the little kids made sense to me, because as a little kid, and that helped me out, because I would rage out at my son. I would yell and he would cry, and I'd go to the bedroom and I'd sit him down and I'd go, I'm so sorry. This is not you. This is your dad. I said, I'm working on it. And one day I went in and I said, how do you feel when daddy yells at you? He said, sad. And I said, I'm giving you permission to be angry with me. He goes, I'm not angry, daddy. I'm saddened. And that's when it registered with me. When you're this little, too little to remember, you're sad, 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 sad. Then one day you pound your fist and go, I'm not feeling this anymore. And like you said, once you cover that up, then you've covered everything up.
It works both ways.
And I'm working on it 40 years into my marriage now. I told Tammy, I said, I can be better.
Well, and I also have heard him say that anger is pain internalized. It's always that anger is simply the result of something that is still stuck.
Well, that rages,
and it's a root, Jeff. It's not even the superficiality of, oh, the guy cut me off, I'm angry. The wife did the thing. It's always so much deeper. There's a thing in there that has to be ripped out, and if it's not, it's going to keep growing back. And you got to go to the root, and that's where we say, no way, no way.
And the hard part is, if you're looking for a therapist, you better find one that's done their own work, because they'll get you to a point in your journey, and they'll be too uncomfortable for them because they haven't dealt with it in their own lives, and they'll just go, oh, that's okay, you're fine, you're good, and we can go on to something else. So it's, again, after 38 years of doing this, I'm ready to sign up for another 7-day intensive. And again.
So you still struggle with anger?
Not so much. I have my moments. I told Tammy the last time I had a conniption, I said, we need to put one of those signs they put up in factories. 138 days since lost time accident, 122 days since Jeff's last conniption. I said, I just want to see how long I go, because there is a gap. It used to be weekly, daily, and then every now and then I get that shame. And for me, it's shame. When I inappropriately lash out at Tammy, then I feel ashamed. And once the shame kicks, then I'm gone. I'm not even in the room. I have to pound something, beat something, throw something, smash something. So I go out in the yard, and Tammy said, I'm going to film it one day. I just paced the yard talking out loud. You piece of crap, you lousy, low-life scumbag. The tape has to run. The tape has to run. The tape has to run. And I said to Tammy one day, I said, I hopefully have never said the deeply hurtful thing, the most hurtful thing I ever said to Tammy. And she said this to me. We were 5 years married in therapy, counseling. And the counselor asked me, do you love Tammy? And I said, kind of like the way I love my sister. Tammy has never forgotten that.
They never will. Too. Women
No,
have a category for. I need to pull
I'm
this
hoping
ace out of my
and
sleeve.
I think AI has that part of the human
How
condition.
does she respond when you rage out, or when you did?
Well, now
did she fight back, or did she just kind of quiver in the corner?
Oh no, not at all.
Your wife seems like a fighter to me.
She
like,
is.
She was like, oh,
well, that's
yeah?
what I said, that I hated conflict. You know, I'm doing it in my show now, where Scott Peck wrote, in order for a relationship to get to true love, in order for true love to exist in a relationship, conflict has to enter the relationship. There's no such thing as a truly loving, conflict-free relationship. And that resonated with me because every relationship I had prior to meeting Tammy, when conflict entered, I fled. That the relationship was over. And people would go, what happened to so-and-so? And I'd say, she wasn't worth the hassle. Because to me, conflict was a hassle. In other words, I was afraid of conflict. The conflict resolution in my home was, if I stood up for myself, I got thrown against the wall. So you learn not to stand up for yourself. You just learn to leave.
And you want to talk about creating anger.
Right.
It's a rage that I have to have somewhere to put this thing.
Well, that's it. I put a 50-pound heavy bag on my deck in Arizona. And Tammy told me years later, when I was pounding on that, I would pound on that. We'd get into an argument. I'd run onto the deck and just hit the thing. And she said, I thought you were hitting me. And I go, just hitting, babe. I used to hit in the hotel rooms by myself, you know.
Well, we don't know how to regulate the trauma that's internalized. And it's like a pressure cooker. There's a reason why steam, it has to give it a way out.
But once you get it out and you realize it, you know, I've done a lot of work. I have, you know, but it's still there. And when I get ashamed, I try to avoid it. I feel it coming and I'll disengage. Now, my line was, I hated conflict. God gave me a woman who loves it, you know, because I would leave the room and she'd follow me. I'd ask her, let me go in the next room. Right. Let me have my little pace around, talking out loud, what a piece of garbage I am. And I'll come back and we'll have an adult conversation. But right now I'm not thinking rationally. So don't push me because I'll say things or do. And I used to punch holes in closets. And you repair enough closets, you learn that. And it's a very funny story. My therapist told me, I said, well, what do I do with my hands? Because she goes, you can't punch things anymore. Walls, closets, you know. So I said, what do I do? She goes, put them in your pocket. So Tammy and I got into this argument. And I'm trying to learn to stay in the room through all this discomfort. And I got my hands, and I'm shaking it. She finally stops. She goes, what in the hell are you doing? And I go, I'm not allowed to punch things, you know. She goes, you want to punch me? I go, I don't want to punch you. I don't want to punch anything. That's why I'm standing there like an idiot, you know. And it's so funny because the internet, the way it is, the devil uses this on those, and that's when the voice starts. What would your Christian brethren think of you now? Look at you, you piece of garbage, you piece of trash. What would they think now? What if they saw that? If they saw it,
of course,
you know. And that's why I'm pretty open and honest about my demons. I really am, because if it ever came out, I want people to go, hey, look. I've talked about this all the time.
Oh no, I did that too. I had it off in the past when people say, because my testimonies, I got saved at 9, and so it's like, oh God, what a pristine life. And I always say, now I had my prodigal journey. Because and literally, Jeff, it was, if something ever comes up from my past, which could involve a woman or something, I want them to know, I never said I nailed this. No, I'm not, man. And you read my book, you know it. I mean, Jeff, you are the most open book, no filters.
Tammy said you'd share our life with the bus driver. I go, well, if he was listening.
And if not,
even if he wasn't. But we were on the Huckabee cruise last year, and I sold 50 books or something, and women would see me in the elevator. They're like, chapter 4, they go, I hate you right now. I go, I turned out okay.
Don't you think, though, and this is something that happened to me, I was looking, as every man, a Christian man who's in conflict with his wife immediately goes, where's that submission passage again? A woman should submit to us. And I was looking for that thing because I wanted to kind of get a balance on what is it actually trying to, where is what does it mean? What does that mean? And of course, prior to that is husbands should love your wife as Christ loved.
Well, you submit to Christ first.
You submit to Christ first. But when I saw that, which I've read a million times.
Yeah, I don't
It's like,
think
well,
Jesus would be calling me the wife's response.
right.
I don't think Jesus would be calling me a douchebag.
No. But here's the thing, though, Jeff. When I read that, just like the Bible, because it's alive. The Bible is
Right.
alive, and so you'll read a passage, and 5 years later, it gives you something new from the same passage because you're
Right.
at a different place.
Yeah, it breathes a different way.
Something else
through
has given you
Yeah.
something you needed from that magic that is the anointing of God's word. And I read that, and I go, "Oh, it is my obligation first."
Right.
But then I said, "To love her like Christ loved the church."
Right.
That's too much. That's too much because he gave everything.
Right.
He forgave someone who didn't deserve to be forgiven. He died for someone who
Right.
didn't give a crap. He was spit upon when he was the innocent one. He tried to be kind and
But
loving
you
to
know-
somebody that does.
You know
it's-
darn well that you'd step in front of a bullet to protect your wife.
yes. But that's kind of almost like an instinct of the moment. But that day to day is the hard part.
Right.
It's the casual compromises
Right.
that is what gets us down. It's not the one-time blow up. I can always say sorry,
Right.
or I can reel that in and say, oh, well, maybe I should have done this differently. But it's that day to day learning to become one of the believers that is the challenge. And so,
Wow.
I would say to you this as we head to the.
Now let me ask you
wrap
this,
up.
because this is we've been dealing with this for decades, Tammy and I. Do you pray with your wife?
I do, and I didn't always. One thing that did help.
What helped you with that? Because we're at this point now. The pastor I just interviewed, he makes a 30-day commitment. He realized when he said, pray with my wife every day for the rest of our lives, I would fail. I knew I would fail. So he says, I make a 30-day commitment. He goes, we just interviewed him, so it's August, whatever. And he said, on September 1st, I will make a new commitment for 30 days.
Mm.
And I said, I'm going to try that. And
Mm.
I'll let you know if that works for me.
Mm.
We make 2 or 3 nights on the side of our beds praying.
Mm.
We pray for our children at dinner. We pray together over meals and things.
Mhm.
But to pray, and I pray for my wife. I pray for our marriage. I pray that he shows me what that love looks like. I would love to be that husband.
Mhm.
I'm not, but I hope to be.
Mhm.
That's the desire. So you pray often?
Well, to be honest with you, I would say no, though that's becoming more part of it now, integrated, not even in a formulaic way, more like when we start getting into friction, I'll stop going, Father, thank you that you're in the midst of all this. Thank you that what we're all trying, and it's like I realize I need to bring God in this. Brad, you can't keep living the same conflict and think somehow this time it'll fix itself. You have to do something different now. What we did do was devotions. When we started reading, and have you ever heard of My Utmost for His Highest? It's a classic.
Oh, Oswald Chambers.
It is the deepest, most amazing devotion I have ever seen. It's deep. It's like singing a hymn as opposed to modern. It's like, how do you get that much in 3 lines? They were so much better back in those days.
Well, they didn't have the distractions that we
would
have.
right. We would read these devotions and then we'd discuss them. We were trying to start the day with talking God stuff, and we'd start fighting. We'd start fighting over the devotion. Well, I think what God said. No, he's not. Listen here, because when you used to do this, and that our devotions turned into chaos.
I love that.
It really did.
I'm going to put that in our show.
We have to. You've got to be kidding me. But it just shows you that nothing is more important for the enemy to destroy than the family and the marriage, because it's sacred. It is the only place where he said to become one.
Well, it's so funny because Tammy will tell you this. I mean, sex wasn't difficult. Praying, you talk about the ultimate intimacy. Is getting on her knees next to each other and praying.
When you go to your wife and say, honey, you want to pray? I'm not in the mood, right? I've got a headache. I can't pray right now.
Yeah. But I mean, people think that sex is the intimate, and it is. There's an intimacy in that. But praying together as husband and wife, especially if you've had conflict.
Yeah.
It's the most
Well, and it's the
difficult
most
thing.
vulnerable because suddenly you're going to the arbiter.
Right.
Neither one of you are right. Let
Right.
him be, and suddenly you have to
Right.
go. As you know, in marriage, the overcoming comes when you really spend 99% of the time looking at you, working on you. It's not about, I can't fix this.
Right.
Yeah, there's some things she does that I don't enjoy or I think is hard. If you learn to turn their difficulties into endearments, and again, sounds like a bumper sticker, but it's serious. When you start seeing, my wife likes to throw stuff on the bed, like when she gets home, the purse and everything, and bugs me because, like, when I want to go to bed, I want to be able to not have to worry about.
Tammy puts my stuff on my side of the bed.
Okay. But it would bother
because it
me.
drives her nuts.
And I realized that part of the day-to-day, part of loving our life, Christ love the church, is I can choose to be annoyed at that. There's no reason for me to not have the right to say, I don't like that. Right. And I said, but you know what? That's what my wife does. I promised her when I married her that I signed up for taking that part of you and saying, that's okay. That's you. I don't like that, but I'm going to give you that grace because that's what we're doing. We're giving each other a grace that nobody else gets that intimacy. Talk about intimacy. The intimacy is saying, you're the only one that I'm going to trust with everything. You're the only one that I'm going to partner with. You're the only, even with my children and grandchildren who I love, they exist because of us.
Right.
They exist because of us. We're the key. We're the top of the pyramid. We're the relationship that's the most sacred.
Right.
They came from us, just like God is the most sacred of all the sacred. Right. So when we don't know where to go, we go to the beginner. So, well, listen, we've been going a long time, and I'd love to go longer, but this is plenty. I guess what I would say to you, though, Jeff, is, you have been such an open book. I mean, truly, dude, I'm serious. You are crazy, no filters, and I'm sure that's gotten you in trouble. But it's also quite. It's a quite an impressive thing because it truly shows you're pretty humble dude. It's like I'll just, here's where my issues are, but it helps people.
It does.
It helps.
I've gotten, if my emails are an indication, it's
because you're letting them know, because the truth is, we talked about David or somebody earlier and how, look what he did. Are you kidding me? But they're in the Bible. We give them a status. Well, guess what? You have a status to a lot of people that listen to your comedy and go, this guy, I know him. I wish he was my neighbor. I wish he was my friend. Holy crap, you did that? Oh, you were a drunk too?
Right.
That vulnerability is so, people are so grateful that somebody will say, it's okay. You're not the only one.
I got into AA because I remember Daniel J. Travanti, the actor, some police show. Anyway,
maybe.
I was finishing off the last of a half a gallon of vodka and watching the Tonight Show, and Travanti comes on, and Carson says to him, so you quit drinking? He goes, yeah, I had to. Talked about Alcoholics Anonymous, and and I called my dad the next day. And I said, if that guy can quit, I can quit. I've never forgotten that. The power of the testimony. Jesus said it. We are to give our stories. And it doesn't mean you walk into a Walmart and in the middle of the Walmart, you start telling your story, but you should be open enough to let people know.
There's not weakness in that, by the way. For men, oftentimes it feels weak to expose those vulnerabilities as opposed to strength. But Jeff, there's people listening or watching right now who are looking at you, probably maybe appreciate what you're saying. But there, I promise, some are saying, yeah, good for you, buddy. You don't know what I've been through.
Right. Well, that's
in
the program.
Explain it to them.
I will. They call it terminal uniqueness.
Okay.
It wasn't until I got in a room full of broken people that I realized we're not that unique. I know I'm not, because people come to me after reading my story, reading my book, and telling me, you told my story. This is my story. This is our story. We're not that unique. And that's a defense of the beast. I call it alcohol, whatever your beast is that's killing you. That beast will cling to you for life, and it will lie to you. I gave a name, the beast, to the alcohol. The alcohol will lie, the bottle will lie, the booze will lie and say, yeah, that's them. They got sober. They're fine. They're good at that. They can do it. The truth is, it's one day at a time. And life is. God wants you in the moment. In the moment. The devil will take the past, and if he can't beat you down with your past, he'll beat you down with the projection of your future. You're not going anywhere. This is your life for life. What squalor you're living in now is what you're going to live in the rest of your life. And God says, no, I got a better plan. I got a better life for you, but you got to be here today, now. And that's the hard part. Because Tammy, I remember when we would, she would look at me when she was going through cancer. And I need you here. And I go, I'm here. She goes, you're not here now. I'm talking to you. And I can tell your mind is not, and it is hard for me to stay present and in the moment. But comedy's helped because you have to be present to deliver the comedy. So that's a lie that nobody's experienced your situation. It's a bold-faced lie from the enemy. The truth is there are tens of thousands, if not millions of people out there that know what you're going through. Find a group of them, 10, 8, 4, 3, 1. Sit across the table from someone and go, look, man, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
I don't know how to quit. I don't know how to stop, but I'm going to lose everything. I've lost everything. What can I do? Now the question becomes, what length are you willing to go to give up the beast? Because the beast wants to live, man, And
there's no simple solution.
Not at all.
You have to go
It's
in.
gonna hurt.
This is not going to be some.
Right.
I chose this now, so it's going to be a breeze. I guess God could heal you miraculously. I'm sure that's happened.
It has
for most people.
Right.
So when they're in that struggle, that day, and maybe that's part of what the steps do, or having your sponsor do. But when they're going through, they go, I can't. And I'm in 5 days in. I don't know. This is too much.
That's why you got to use the phone and you lean on other people. I only did one thing right in early sobriety. I used the phone. I called people and said, look, man, I want to, my favorite line was, we were at a sporting event and I quit going to sporting events because it triggered, I want to drink. So anyway, Tammy looked at me and said, you look like you want to drink. I said, I'd suck it from your veins. And somebody gave me a vodka in my orange juice one night at a club, and I spit it across the bar. And what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
He said, I thought I'd do you a favor. And I go, it's not a favor. I go to my meeting that night and some guy goes, why are you in a bar? And I said, well, I make my living in a bar. He goes, then you got to quit your job. And I go, I didn't come here for career advice. I came here to learn how to live in a world that's surrounded by alcohol without me imbibing in it. And if you can't help me, I can save myself 5-6 hours a week.
Right.
And it's like, dealing with the porn and the lust. You get to a point where they go, starve your eyes. I go, good luck in this culture. It's like saying, don't look at bananas, and you walk in the airport and every shelf has bananas on it.
Right.
You go,
right.
So I got to learn how to Ron Pearson, who we were the apostles, gave me the greatest line when he was dealing with all this. He said, comes to lust, he said, yeah, I look. And then I go, nice work, God. I move on.
Well done.
Well done, God.
Yeah,
And then I move on. It's the second and third and fourth glance that will get you down the path. So yeah, in other words, if you're struggling, there's help, and there's hope. And certainly if you're not a God person, then go to, there's people out there, but God he'll get you. He will.
What do you got to lose?
Yeah, the Pascalian wager. I love it.
That's right. Well, folks, this
did you know he was, maybe you're the one that told me this. He was dealing with gamblers.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did tell me that.
Well, they were giving him odds about when they choose certain things. And
so he spoke to him and
he said, well, let's use that then. So odds are, there's no guarantees, but this is the house, it's like, oh, I didn't know. Right. But it works. There's a reason why they have actuaries and playing poker with the numbers and whatever, that usually it works. And there's enough people out here that have done this God thing. They say it's a crutch, right? God's a crutch. And I said years ago, it's like, well, then atheism's a coma, because we all need a crutch. If I can't walk, I need a crutch. If I'm in pain, I need what's wrong with saying I need some help every now and again? It's absurd. So, folks.
It's so to the point where The Bible says he hears our groans and moans.
Well, and he even said,
You don't even have to put words.
But when you talk about, ironically, all the, like you said, it's, the 12 steps is a Christian base idea, and it's all there. Once, a day at a time. Jesus said, take no thought for tomorrow.
Right.
Tomorrow will take care of itself.
Right.
So, and here's the best line: sufficient for the day is the evil thereof. He's letting you know, life is rough, but
right.
this is a good. You got today, and you can get through it. And show people that evil can be redeemed. Show people that there is light, that there are some of us who found a better way, that there is a way out. And it doesn't mean it's easy.
Not at all. That's the lie. That's the lie of the self-help movement.
Yeah.
Read this book and your life will be better. And I read them all. Back in the 80s, I read them all. I'm sure there's new copies.
And becoming a Christian doesn't mean now I get my job back. Now I'm out of debt. Now suddenly the cancer goes away. It could, it might.
Greatest answer to a prayer was George Bailey at the bar. Dear God, I can't do it anymore. And the next scene, he gets punched in the face. And he goes, well, thank you. And then that leads him to the bridge. That leads him to saving Clarence. It leads him to his angel. That punch in the mouth was the catalyst that got him moving out of the situation he was in, which was self-pity and fear, to proactivism of helping another. And I had a sponsor give me trash bags once. And I said, what is this? He goes, when you feel like drinking, go pick up trash. And I go, where? He goes, I go to a mini mart. They got parking lots are full of trash. And here's the hard part. Don't let anybody see you doing it, because then your pride will kick in. You'll think it's about you. And I go, okay. So I don't know, a few days go by or something. And I want to go home and just rip the head off of somebody. And I see these trash bags. I pull into a 7-Eleven and I start picking trash up. And sure enough, within 5 minutes, man, I forgot about everything. And helping another. We're wired for service. That's right. And we are wired for worship. And you're going to worship something, you're going to serve something. And usually what you worship, you'll serve. So, and men are wired to provide and protect. So get a job. If you don't have one, find one. And I don't care what it is. Jordan Peterson started his whole 12 thing with making your bed in the morning. And I started doing that because of Tammy. And I do it in hotel rooms now. And I used to clutter up
as a discipline.
Because it gets you thinking outside of yourself. My lazy self says, "Hey, what the hell? The maid will do it, or whatever. I don't care." But God says you need to produce. You need to do something. So you start out by, and Tammy's up before I am. I'm the last one to get out of bed. And when I started making the bed behind her, she would walk in and go, "Holy cow! Thank you for that." And.
Well, Christianity teaches you to give away what you need. So if you need a friend,
it's very paradoxical.
One. Yeah, be one. If you
want to love, be loving.
Yeah, give it away first and watch what God will do. Folks, if you have a church, if you have a fundraiser, if you have, I don't know, any kind of event of people who want to laugh, would like to be inspired, you're going to need to bring Jeff Allen into your church, because it's so unique. Especially if it was an outreach or something where people are going, I ain't doing this church thing. So he's a comic. And then when he gets to reveal himself and the pain and go, what? A comic? Yeah, I figure you guys can laugh yourself out of anything. No, that's how we survived. Just like you chose the bottle, or you chose the drugs, or you chose the sex. It's just a way to survive, but it doesn't fix it. And that's what we're searching to fix. We'll never get it on this earth. All we can do is pursue it. But you will get saved, and then you spend the rest of your life trying to get your flesh to catch up. But Christ does the work. That's being a Christian. Then you get to be a disciple. And that's when you get to take your turn being Jesus. It's going to be hard, and it'll be the greatest thing you've ever done in your life. Folks, remember, if they ever say to you, you're politically incorrect, always say thank you for the compliment. What a wonderful thing you can tell somebody. I appreciate that. I'm glad you noticed. And as much as I'm so grateful my friend Jeff Allen is here and what he has to give to you, this little show gives what it's supposed to do, which is what? I'm just putting the woke back to sleep. See you next Monday.